Whether they were truly being sincere, both knew in their hearts. Adults needed to maintain appearances. Some things were better left unsaid. Amelia shook her head, glanced at William's grim expression, and turned back into the house. In the past, she would have definitely shown concern for William, asking him what was wrong, but now she felt it was unnecessary. Back home, the familiar surroundings brought a sense of security. Mr. Stevens and the housemaid came to greet her when they heard her return. They asked how she'd been, if she was eating well, noticing immediately that she had lost weight. Mr. Stevens, unaware of what had happened outside, saw William follow her in and assumed the family had reconciled. Amelia said wearily, "William and I have already divorced. We'll get the official certificate in a month." With that, she went upstairs. William hesitated before entering. After the unexpected turn of events, he felt surrounded by malicious glares. Even a casual glance from a servant felt laden with ill intent. William didn't have the mind to observe further, lowering his head as he entered the guest room he used to stay in. He quickly pulled out his phone and called Sophia Thompson. As soon as the call connected, he barked, "Sophia Thompson, you listen to me. I have no money now. You've seen the news online. The Johnson family is bankrupt. I'm saddled with $5 billion in debt. Debt collectors are hounding me every day, and Amelia is divorcing me. If you leak anything about the child, forget money. I'll lose my life. Do you hear me?" The person on the other end was silent for a moment before replying, "The baby's been born for a while now. I just wanted you to see the child." Child, damn the child. This child was never part of his plan. The one who should have gotten pregnant didn't, and this one had to. Why was he so unlucky, getting entangled with a disgusting, obsessive woman, getting slept with by an escort? Why didn't these people just die? If he had known, he wouldn't have touched Sophia Thompson just to satisfy some physical urge. He used to think she was simple and honest, but she was actually a crazy, obsessive fan. He told her he had no money for her, yet she still wanted to be with him. The woman was sick. William had already considered the worst-case scenario. Divorce Amelia, take the money, and run as far away as possible, preferably abroad. The thought of living such a pathetic life from now on filled him with repressed anger. Thinking this, he smashed his phone. The online drama exploded, quickly hitting Twitter trends. Initially, the Harper Enterprises PR team spent money trying to push it down the trending list. Just as it seemed to be dropping off, around noon, it sprang back like a released coil, shooting straight to the #1 spot. Victor Harper arrested. Harper Enterprises facing liquidation. The same process as the Johnson family. Last night, the Harper Hotel surveillance system was hacked, and everyone said the footage was gone. Yet, video evidence of Victor Harper planning to drug Victoria Harper and give her away somehow leaked. A win. Victoria Harper placed a black stone. Across the go board, Ethan's pieces were utterly defeated. Winning the game made Victoria Harper smile happily, though it tugged at a slight pain in her lower abdomen. Victoria Harper had strong willpower and a high tolerance for pain, but that didn't mean she didn't feel it. She was just used to enduring it in an environment where no one cared. But things were different now. Ethan cared. He noticed even the slightest furrow of her brow. "Let's stop playing. Rest for a bit." Ethan opened a thermos and handed it to her. Inside was a warm honey lemon drink he'd made to warm her up, its taste sweet and tart. Victoria Harper leaned against him, sipping the warm drink from the cup he held. To ease the pain, she asked Ethan to massage her, which made her feel much better. "The Harper family is down. Harper Enterprises is next," Victoria Harper said, asking Ethan, "Can you go through with it?" Ethan knew Victoria Harper still cared somewhat about Amelia. "Of course. If I don't move against him, he'll move against me." The enmity was already deep-seated. If Harper Enterprises survived this crisis and regained its strength, Benjamin Harper would definitely retaliate. Benjamin Harper, he was the kind of man who, if left standing, would inevitably find a way to strike back. Ethan had to ensure there was nothing left. "It's all just karma. If I hadn't protected myself and fought back, I'd be the one framed and sent to Springfield Correctional Facility right now. Benjamin Harper's methods aren't any softer than mine." Arranging for his silent death would also have been highly possible. They looked at each other, and Victoria Harper smiled first. "I have you to thank this time for digging up the information about Victor Harper seeing escorts. But how did you convince his wife to confirm it?" She knew Victor Harper was seeing escorts. She didn't care about him. She cared about money. That's why she let him run wild all these years. They both did their own thing. But what if Victor Harper divorced her and left her with nothing? Back then, Victor Harper only married her because he wanted a tool for bearing children and, incidentally, to cover up his own sexual orientation. Victor Harper is the guilty party. How could you be left with nothing? Ethan explained, because she's pregnant and the child isn't Victor Harper's. Now, she's not just thinking about the money, but also about the baby in her belly. If Victor Harper found out the child wasn't his, what do you think he would do? To save her own skin and secure the money, she followed Ethan's plan, secretly transferring a sum of assets, and then, at this critical moment, provided solid proof of Victor Harper's dirty secret involving escorts. Being family, after all, she knew much more than Ethan did. Having her provide the proof was perfect. With concrete evidence of Victor Harper's infidelity, filing for divorce was just a matter of procedure. However, during this period, they had to ensure Victor Harper couldn't threaten anyone. If he ever got the chance to get out of prison, he would definitely retaliate against her. So, Ethan reached an agreement with her as part of this process. Realization dawned on Victoria Harper. The omniscient Mr. Johnson, you really are something else. I'm impressed. You're much more formidable than I am. He knew all this only because of information from his past life. But even without him, Victoria Harper could have taken down Victor Harper. Victor Harper had been so brazen and casual about drugging Victoria Harper and giving her away for profit. He must have done similar things many times before. How am I formidable? Explain it to me in detail. Victoria Harper slowly lay down, resting her head on his lap, her eyes fixed intently on him. Her stare made Ethan's heart race. He continued massaging her stomach as he spoke. You're exceptionally capable, beautiful, and have a strong character. Even without me, you would have definitely brought down the Harper family and sent Victor Harper to Springfield Correctional Facility. I asked how I'm formidable. Why are you saying these things? These things are the proof of how formidable you are. Victoria Harper reached out and touched the mark on his Adam's apple. Then tell me, was I formidable last night? Isn't my body amazing? And my skin? Isn't it fair? Her tone was playful yet smug, a blatant seduction. In that moment, Ethan truly thought she was a little vixen. The cast iron stove in the kitchen, where chicken noodle soup was simmering, bubbled softly, merging with the sounds racing through his mind. He looked at the curve of Victoria Harper's lips, loving this bold, unrestrained side of her, wanting nothing more than to take her right there, hold her down until she cried. Victoria Harper rested her head on Ethan's thigh. She could read his every reaction. Unable to stand it anymore, Ethan scooped her into his arms, his voice slightly hoarse. Victoria, don't mess with me. She wasn't feeling well, but she loved teasing Ethan, loved seeing him helpless. The more he resisted, the more she wanted to provoke him. And the more he struggled, the more thrilled she became. In the end, all Ethan could do was look at her helplessly and awkwardly change the subject. Guess what Benjamin Harper's doing right now? He's probably scrambling to sell the Westbrook district, trying to patch up the mess. For Benjamin, it was like cutting off his own arm. There was no way he could have foreseen that the $50 million Westbrook district would turn into a disaster. Breaking even was impossible. He'd be lucky to get $20 million for it, and even that wasn't enough to cover the holes. Ethan and Victoria exchanged a knowing smile. Since Victoria wasn't feeling well, Ethan made her some soup. He watched her finish it and head to bed before taking over her work. Drawing from his experience in their past life, he sifted through the files, flagging problematic projects and discarding companies that had previously imploded. He used to think there was nothing wrong with living alone, cooking for himself, taking care of himself. Less hassle, just a bit lonely. But now, looking at Victoria lying on his bed, wrapped in his blanket, stubbornly insisting on sleeping in his pajamas, he felt something new. For the first time, he realized that a room could feel warm. That life could be romantic. Victoria didn't need to do anything, just sleep in front of him, and everything felt perfect. By the time he finished sorting through the files, night had fallen. Ethan reheated dinner, then tiptoed into the bedroom to wake Victoria. He meant to wake her, but approached so gently, barely daring to speak. He caressed her face. Victoria, time to eat. She rubbed her eyes. The decisive CEO she was in public became a clingy little woman in his bed. Instead of getting up, she curled into his arms and clung tightly to his waist. Ethan let her be for a while. Once she was fully awake, he picked her up and led her to the powder room to wash up, like he was caring for a daughter. I want to sleep here from now on. Okay, I'm moving all my stuff over. I'll help you move. After we move in together, can we shower together too? Sure. Huh. Victoria stayed home for 2 days to rest before being called out by Mr. Joe for a work meeting. But just as they met up, they unexpectedly ran into Amelia Harper. Amelia had been on her way to submit her resignation. Seeing Victoria and Mr. Joe together confirmed her suspicions. Those two were in it together. The incident at the hotel a few days ago must have been a setup, a trap laid for both families. Watching how close they were, she couldn't help but wonder what kind of relationship they had behind the scenes. Amelia still thought of Victoria as useless. At least she herself had held a job. What had Victoria ever done? Had she been secretly involved with Mr. Joe all along? Harper Enterprises had been in chaos lately. Benjamin Harper was working around the clock, visibly aged and worn. If Yang Group had stepped in to help, things wouldn't have fallen apart like this. In the end, she blamed Victoria for ruining her uncle and her father. So when she saw Victoria with Mr. Joe, she couldn't hold back. She charged forward. Mr. Joe, do you remember me? Startled, Mr. Joe paused, his eyes focusing on her face. After a moment of surprise, he replied, I remember. What's the matter? Mr. Joe, could you please help my father and Harper Enterprises? The Westbrook District Project. I'm not discussing business right now. Victoria crossed her arms. She had already noticed Amelia when she got out of the car, though Amelia didn't seem to notice her. Had she been paying attention, she would have seen that Mr. Joe was in the front passenger seat. Victoria had gotten out from the back. A small detail, but an important one. Amelia didn't understand business deals. She couldn't negotiate, so all she could do was beg. But to them, she looked no different than someone handing out flyers on the street. No skills, no appeal. Desperate, Amelia blurted out, Mr. Joe, my uncle didn't mean it that night. He misunderstood you. Whether he meant it or not is for the courts to decide. It has nothing to do with me. Ms. Harper, you're in our way. Please move. Amelia immediately turned her fire on Victoria. Victoria, what did you say to him? Finally, the blame came her way. Victoria played innocent. Niece, what are you talking about? I don't understand. She stared at Amelia coldly, waiting to see what ridiculous thing she'd say next. Mr. Joe, don't be fooled by her. I know you like Victoria Harper, but she's not a good person, Amelia snapped. She's the one playing both sides, sleeping with Ethan while seducing you. What are you to her? She even framed her own brother. She's heartless. We had already agreed to the deal with you, and because of her, everything fell apart. Victoria smiled, ignoring her. She turned to Mr. Joe instead. Joe, I'm hungry. Ethan wants the buffalo wings from Rosewood Grand Hotel. Go grab a takeout order for me. 2 orders of vegetarian sides too, same as usual. And my custom wedding cake from the shop next door, have them deliver it. Amelia froze, stunned by the audacity. Victoria dared to order Mr. Joe around and called him by his nickname. Her father and uncle always treated Mr. Joe with the utmost respect. Since the company's crisis, her dad had called him multiple times with no response. In Amelia's eyes, Mr. Joe was more powerful than her father. And now this same man was bowing to Victoria? You wanted to go now? What about? Go, Victoria waved him off. Victoria, how could you? Amelia was beginning to realize something wasn't right. Before she could finish, Mr. Joe spoke up. Yes, boss. He gave Amelia a meaningful look. Her face turned pale, full of disbelief, like she'd just hallucinated. Mr. Joe, did you just call Victoria Harper? Boss, did I mishear? Or did you misspeak? She asked, her voice trembling, eyes reddening. Mr. Joe gave a polite smile and nodded. You heard right. The president of Yang Group, the one you've been dying to meet, is Victoria Harper. President Liu. I'm just her executive assistant. Amelia went completely white. Her heart dropped like a stone. She couldn't believe it. She wanted to think Mr. Joe was just humoring Victoria, but his expression was dead serious, and his gaze toward Victoria was full of respect. At that moment, she suddenly remembered why Mr. Joe's face had looked so familiar. Amelia Harper finally understood why William Hayes looked so familiar. She hadn't been imagining things when she saw Victoria Harper entering the Rosewood Grand Hotel with a man. She had truly seen it. Coupled with the fact that Victor Harper only ever used harsh words when mentioning Victoria, Amelia had always held a poor opinion of her, viewing her as promiscuous and dissolute. So, when she saw Victoria entering the Rosewood Grand Hotel intimately with a man, she had jumped to conclusions. Thinking about it now, she realized she had never truly tried to understand Victoria Harper, just as she had never truly understood Ethan Johnson. She reassessed the woman before her, her aunt, only 4 years her senior. An age gap so small she could have called her sister, yet Victoria was a generation above her. As a child, Amelia had always wanted to call Victoria sister, never understanding how someone barely older could be her aunt. Was Victoria Harper a good student? Apparently average. She'd never heard Benjamin Harper praise her. What Benjamin Harper said most often was that Victoria was just like Emily Harper, her mother, who had been a mistress and broken up her grandmother's relationship. Mistresses were no good, and neither were their children. Consequently, Amelia had despised associating with Victoria since childhood. At Thanksgiving dinners, she always kept her distance, afraid of catching something unpleasant from her. She recalled Victoria being quiet and withdrawn back then, not fitting in. Her peers always looked at her with a probing, judgmental gaze. But Victoria's indifferent attitude only made those around her dislike her more, leading them to gossip maliciously behind her back. When she started middle school and boarding was allowed, Victoria moved out. After that, Amelia only saw her during the Harper family's New Year banquet. Until adulthood, Victoria always hid in inconspicuous corners. Then, at some point, she burst onto the scene in a striking red dress. She still sat in corners, but she no longer lacked presence. Head propped on her hand, her gaze was indifferent, the upward curve of her lips like that of a ruler seated on high, aloof and full of contempt. Just like now, when plunged into immense shock, the mind goes numb, like an overheating phone slowing down, stuck on one page, unresponsive, ultimately needing a forced restart. No, you're lying. Both of you are lying to me. How could you be the boss of Yayan Group? The boss of Yayan Group is clearly a man. How could a woman like you achieve that? Amelia Harper had always believed Victoria was an even more useless pretty face than herself. Before this, she had even felt smug, thinking Victoria wasn't good enough for Ethan Johnson and that he would eventually dump her. But now, being told Victoria was the mysterious boss of Yayan Group utterly shattered her worldview. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean I can't. Victoria stared into Amelia Harper's eyes, seeing the displaced panic and despair. She smiled. I told you before that I knew the boss of Yayan Group and could introduce you. Who can you blame for not believing me? Victoria Harper, you did this deliberately. Victoria let out a scornful laugh. Deliberately did what? Deliberately made you run your mouth and provoke me? Or deliberately led you to drug me? You were the malicious and stupid ones, yet now you shift the blame onto me. Do you know what it means to kick someone when they're down? If you hadn't fallen, how could I have dropped the stone? People like you deserve to be crushed. Do you still think I'm a useless pretty face now? If Victoria Harper was a useless pretty face, what were they? Flimsy cardboard? Or trash from the non-recyclable bin? Amelia Harper stumbled back, her ankle twisting in her high heels. She wanted to flee, but her legs trembled, refusing to obey. Are you still asking me to cooperate with your Benjamin Harper now? Amelia Harper shook her head, absorbing all the blatant sarcasm and veiled insults. A tall, sturdy driver stood protectively beside Victoria, preventing anyone from getting close. Victoria continued, It's useless even if you kneel and beg me. To tell you the truth, I deliberately targeted Victor Harper. This time it was the Harper family. Next time, it'll be your family's turn. Tell Benjamin Harper to wait for me. All those incomprehensible events were suddenly linked together by Victoria's words, forming a seamless thread. No wonder Yayan Group stepped in to help Ethan Johnson after his incident. Victoria didn't need to rely on any man. She could bring down Harper Enterprises all by herself. Why did she hate the Harper family so much? It was, after all, the place where she grew up. And how did she establish Yayan Group? Where did her initial capital come from? Victoria said she was going after Harper Enterprises. What would she do next? Countless questions tangled around Amelia like vines, tightening their grip the more she struggled. She no longer dared to ask Victoria these questions face to face. Her feet felt glued to the ground as she watched Victoria walk further and further away. After what felt like an eternity, the aching cold in her legs brought her back to her senses. She stiffly took out her phone, her fingers trembling as she found Benjamin Harper's number and called him. The call didn't connect. She tried twice more before he finally picked up. What is it? Benjamin Harper's tone was harsh. Although he never discussed the Harper Tower situation at home, Amelia could tell from his expression daily that things were dire. Benjamin's foul mood kept everyone at home on edge. The atmosphere within Harper Enterprises these past few days felt colder than the 8-degree weather outside, utterly suffocating. Amelia shivered, her voice trembling. Dad, the boss of Yayan Group isn't William Hayes. What do you mean? If not William Hayes, then who? It's Victoria Harper. There was a moment of silence on the other end, likely filled with the same disbelief Amelia had felt. Sure enough, Benjamin Harper scoffed. I don't have time for your jokes right now. I'm very busy. Dad, I know it's hard to accept, but I saw it with my own eyes and heard it with my own ears. Benjamin still didn't believe her, shooting back questions. How did you see it? And who told you? I saw Victoria Harper with William Hayes, so I went to find him, hoping to ask for a favor. But William Hayes only listens to Victoria Harper. She called him William Hayes, and he answered. William Hayes even called her President Lou. Victoria also said, "This time it was the Harper family. Next time it'll be our family. Dad, you have to be careful of her. Victoria Harper is dangerous." Instinct told Amelia that if Victoria was revealing her identity now and daring to make such bold challenges, she must be absolutely confident. Suddenly, she was terrified, afraid that her branch of the Harper Enterprises would go bankrupt just like the Johnson family and Victor Harper's family. Impossible. How could Victoria Harper establish Yang Group? Where'd she get the money? She's only 27, and she's a woman. It was as if admitting Victoria's capability meant demeaning himself, trampling on his own dignity. How could Benjamin Harper admit he was inferior to a 27-year-old woman, especially one he had always scorned as useless? Dad, I wish I didn't have to believe it, but the evidence is undeniable. So many things that didn't make sense before are suddenly clear. It was because Victoria Harper likes Ethan that she helped him squash those online rumors. And since she's the head of Yang Group, Mr. Joe wouldn't dare cross her. Mentioning Victoria Harper brought not just coldness, but raw hatred to Amelia's voice, a resentment that burned in her eyes. Dad, do you understand now why Victoria Harper despises the Harper family so much? Why would she hate the Harper family? Benjamin mused. Victoria grew up under their roof, yes, but after losing her mother young, her life had been hard. The Harpers had essentially let her fend for herself, treating her worse than they treated the household pets. Benjamin remembered Victoria as a child. Always grubby, skinny as a rail, nothing like her beautiful mother. No one liked her, especially Victor. He'd beaten and berated her, rallied others to ostracize her, spread vicious rumors calling her a mistress's daughter, and repeatedly tried to get rid of her. He'd pushed her into freezing water in the winter and kicked her out of the house in the summer heat. She received no allowance, no new clothes for holidays like Thanksgiving. She looked nothing like the daughter of a wealthy family. Mrs. Harper hadn't cared for her either, even blaming Victoria for her own mother's death, calling her useless, saying she couldn't even watch over her own mother properly. If it weren't for Victoria, she claimed, her mother wouldn't have taken her own life. How could such a pathetic creature, who could barely afford clothes or jewelry back then, possibly have the money to start a company? And how could she have become powerful enough to threaten the very existence of Harper Enterprises? Benjamin couldn't piece it all together over the phone, so he just hung up. If Amelia was right, then Victoria certainly had grounds to retaliate against Victor. The rest of the Harper family was likely just collateral damage. But bankrupting the entire Harper family? That seemed far-fetched. Even if she was the head of Yang Group, wealthy and influential, the Harpers still had a solid foundation. He was just facing a temporary cash flow problem, some difficulties. Once he sold the Westbrook District property and found new partners for other ventures, he'd quickly recover. It wouldn't be so easy for Victoria Harper to bring him down. Having reasoned this out, a measure of relief settled over Benjamin Harper. He felt calmer. Still, Benjamin took Amelia's warning seriously enough to completely sever ties with Yang Group. He called another meeting specifically because of this. The Westbrook District auction was scheduled for 11 tomorrow morning. Wanting to be fully prepared, Benjamin left work early. The first time in days he'd been home before dinner. 3 places were set at the table. William looked visibly startled to see Benjamin, clearly not expecting him home so early. Benjamin saw him emerging from the kitchen. "What were you doing in there?" "I didn't have anything else to do, so I was helping Aunt Linda with dinner." "Have you been cooking much lately?" Benjamin asked casually, though his mind was weighed down by stress. A closer look would reveal a flicker of nervousness in William's eyes at the question. William replied stiffly, "Just helping out, watching the stove." Benjamin didn't seem to register the tension. He just nodded and headed upstairs. As Benjamin's footsteps faded, William let out a quiet sigh of relief, but a deep gloom settled in his eyes. The last couple of days, the community management had been weeding and spraying for pests. The chemical smell lingered in the air outside. He glanced at the dead insects clinging to the trees. If only Benjamin Harper could die just as quickly, a sudden death, William thought darkly. Things hadn't improved between him and Amelia recently. She went to her job at Harper Tower as usual, not returning until 7 in the evening. Unlike before, when she took taxis or the subway, she now had a private car service. She carried different designer bags and wore new outfits every day. William tried to ease the tension between them by helping with the cooking. His culinary skills were lacking. However, he needed guidance every time he tried. Still, it was an improvement from when he could only manage instant noodles or oatmeal. Now he could make soup. He made different kinds each day, always setting aside a portion for Benjamin Harper before anyone else ate. Benjamin's appetite vanished when he was stressed, and soup was often the only thing he'd consume. When Amelia returned, Benjamin immediately called her into his study, demanding a full account of the day's events. "Dad, Victoria wouldn't make threats like that unless she was certain. She's been waiting, planning for years. Her goal is to—" Amelia bit her lip, clearly agitated. "So, what exactly do you think she can do?" Unlike Victor, his private life was impeccable, and he hadn't broken any laws. Unlike Richard Johnson, Harper Enterprises had no tax evasion issues. How exactly did Victoria plan to take him down? In terms of overall power, Yang Group might not necessarily be stronger than his company. Benjamin Harper had been riding high on his success for years. His arrogance wasn't easily shaken. Amelia didn't understand the intricacies of business and couldn't argue the point. Still, she couldn't deny that Victoria Harper and Ethan were formidable. Look at the Johnsons and the previous iteration of the Harpers. Who could have predicted both families would collapse practically overnight? Empires rise and fall. Who could be absolutely certain they were immune to disaster, that their position was secure forever? Benjamin wasn't underestimating Victoria entirely. He knew that after the Westbrook district sale, there would be a major fight ahead. Knock, knock, knock. A rap on the door interrupted them. William's voice came from the hallway. "Amelia? Mr. Harper? Dinner's ready." Amelia replied, "Okay, Dad, let's eat first. You should try to rest early tonight." Benjamin stood up. "About you and William recently. I'm going to divorce him. When the time is right, I'll go with him to finalize the papers. I've been busy with work, and he keeps trying to talk at night. I just don't know what to say to him anymore. Dad, I know what you're worried about, but I've truly made up my mind. I'm divorcing him. I only married him for complicated reasons back then. Mostly guilt. I felt sorry for him. If it hadn't been for me." "How exactly did you let him down?" Benjamin interrupted, his face hardening. "Harper Enterprises paid his tuition and living expenses for studying abroad. Do you have any idea how many people dream of that opportunity but can't afford it? It cost millions, and I paid for it. When he came back, you helped him get into the entertainment industry, invested in his projects. Hundreds of millions you poured into him. Yes, he makes money for the company now, but has he ever shown any gratitude? Ever tried to get back to you? Apart from saying he likes you, what else has he ever offered? Don't give me that childhood sweetheart nonsense. Even if he hadn't been around, you would have been perfectly fine. You're Benjamin Harper's daughter. When you were sick, you had private doctors, staff looking after you, professional chefs cooking whatever you desired. When you go out, people fall over themselves to befriend you, to curry favor. That's all because you were born a Harper. William was the least remarkable among your many acquaintances. Just a chauffeur's son. If it weren't for his father's accident, your mother might still be alive. You think he's so wonderful, not because he is, but because he carefully curated the image he presented to you. It's practically brainwashing. The true measure of a person in a relationship isn't how well they treat you when things are good, but how they treat you when you argue, when things get bad. During that time you ran away from home, what did he actually do for you? Compare him to Ethan. Then you'll see the difference." Benjamin's words struck a chord. It was rare for father and daughter to speak so frankly, so calmly. Amelia thought back to those days living with William in a cramped Brooklyn loft. She went to work, he stayed home. She never really knew what he did all day. The takeout he ordered was charged to her account, so she saw the daily expenses. The cheapest meal cost $50. He easily spent over $100 a day on food alone. Back then, her monthly salary was only $6,000. Benjamin Harper could have dealt with William Hayes directly, but extremes often backfire. Amelia Harper was his only daughter, and he didn't want her to hate him. Paying $5 million to sever the relationship and force Amelia to face reality wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Keeping William Hayes around, burdened with $1.5 billion in debt, was like harboring a ticking time bomb. There are three particularly foolish things in life. Try to explain things to fools, attempting serious business with unreliable people, and seeking affection from the heartless. People have to make mistakes to grow, to learn their lesson. He just hoped Amelia wouldn't fall into any of those categories. Benjamin Harper watched Amelia's expression. It seemed she had actually taken his words to heart this time. Benjamin Harper stood up, but a wave of dizziness made him sway violently. "Dad, are you okay?" Amelia asked, alarmed, rushing to steady him. Benjamin leaned on the desk, waiting for the faintness to pass. "I'm fine, Dad. Maybe I should take you to the Mayo Clinic for a checkup?" "It's nothing, just been a bit tired lately. It'll pass once things settle down. I'll go for a full physical at Mayo, then." He hadn't had one in a long time, almost 2 years now. Lately, he noticed many alarming symptoms. dizziness from high blood pressure, stomach pain, chest tightness. When father and daughter went downstairs, they saw William Hayes serving soup. He gave a bowl first to Benjamin Harper, then to Amelia, and finally took one for himself. Not daring to sit near Amelia, he took his bowl and sat far away. Seeing him act so meekly, Benjamin didn't say anything. William held his bowl, pretending to sip his soup, but secretly glanced up, watching Benjamin finish his portion. The next morning, Benjamin Harper got up for breakfast. His driver and executive assistant were already waiting at the door. Mr. Stevens noticed the blood pressure medication on the table and brought it over. William Hayes stood by the window, watching the car drive away downstairs. Sophia Thompson called him, saying the baby hadn't been feeling well recently and asking him to accompany her to the Mayo Clinic. William agreed, deciding to go with her today. On the way to the auction, the executive assistant was constantly flipping through documents, briefing Benjamin Harper on who would be attending and their likely price points. Benjamin tried hard to listen, but his mind kept wandering, his focus drifting. He stared out at the hazy sky, a tightness spreading in his chest. Upon arrival, Benjamin saw several Harper limousines parked at the entrance. A few executives stood chatting near the door, looking like they had just arrived. When they saw Benjamin get out of the car, they raised their hands in greeting. Benjamin Harper, long time no see. How have you been? The question dripped with thinly veiled sarcasm. Anyone paying attention knew Benjamin was not doing well recently. Both the Johnson family and Harper Enterprises incidents had implicated him. Because of the fallout, Johnson Group had been thoroughly investigated, its stock price plummeting repeatedly, leaving employees anxious and fearful, worried Harper Enterprises would be next. Benjamin shook hands with each of them, forcing a smile. I'm doing very well. Shall we go in together? They murmured agreement, but just as they were about to enter, several of the executives received phone calls almost simultaneously. Benjamin's heart tightened as he watched them pull out their phones. He instinctively recalled Amelia's words from yesterday. This time it's Harper Enterprises. Next time, it'll be your family. Tell Benjamin Harper to wait for me. After finishing their calls, the men exchanged glances, then turned to Benjamin with apologetic expressions. Benjamin Harper, something urgent came up today. I won't be able to go in. Me too. Terribly sorry. It felt like a physical blow. Benjamin's face stiffened. His lips twitched into a forced, dry smile. But we're already at the door. They were clearly making excuses. Invitations were sent out days in advance, schedules arranged. How could something suddenly prevent them from attending? If it were just one person, perhaps, but all four executives claimed they couldn't go in right after receiving calls? What kind of emergency was it? Were their wives all giving birth on the same day? Benjamin's face darkened. Seeing his grim expression, the men looked conflicted, hesitating. Finally, Mr. Miller, standing at the front, spoke up. What is our call? The boss of Yang Group is hosting a dinner tonight. You know, we didn't get a chance to connect at that Harper Enterprises banquet, but this is different. The Yang Group boss invited us personally, mainly to discuss cooperation and the current climate. Also, I received some news. That Westbrook District project is in trouble. According to new policies, it's a worthless piece of land, fundamentally valueless. Forget $50 million. It might not even be worth $1. $5 million. This information was originally only known by those at the very top. Benjamin's lips turned pale. A buzzing filled his ears, rushing straight to his head. Beside him, his executive assistant looked incredulous, watching as the executive showed expressions of difficulty and sympathy. They looked at Benjamin Harper as if watching a doomed man living out his final moments. Impossible. How could the value plummet? How could it become a worthless piece of land? Benjamin shook his head, unwilling to accept it. You're lying to me, aren't you? Old Benjamin. Mr. Miller patted his shoulder, finding it hard to watch. We're really not lying. We actually heard rumors about this a few days ago and had people looking into it. Just now, my executive assistant confirmed it. The news came from Yang Group. Hearing this, Benjamin let out a bitter laugh. So, news from Yang Group is automatically true? Don't you know the person who founded Yang Group is Victoria Harper, my sister-in-law? She holds a grudge against me, always looking for a chance for revenge. She deliberately framed Victor to get him sent to prison. Mr. Miller sighed. He hadn't wanted to say more, but seeing Benjamin so completely in the dark felt pitiable. He showed Benjamin the file his assistant had just sent him. Look, it's already been officially stamped. The authorities have released the information. Everyone should know by today. If you still don't believe it, have your executive assistant check. For Benjamin Harper, this concerned his entire fortune, his lifeline. For the executive assistant, however, it was just a job. Though shocked, he quickly composed himself and took out his phone. He didn't even need to search. Someone had already sent him the message. He clicked on it, confirmed it multiple times. Benjamin Harper, it's true. The last glimmer of hope in Benjamin's eyes died. His insides trembled, his eyes burned. His mouth hung open, countless impossibles flooding his mind. He heard a chorus of sighs. People patted his shoulder, his arm. Some advised him to let it go, not to take it to heart, like offering condolences before the final blow. Benjamin Harper remained unconvinced. What did these few people signify? He'd received the list last night. It had 100 names. Being short 4 or 5 wasn't a deal-breaker. Besides, not everyone necessarily knew, right? What if? He wasn't even thinking about breaking even anymore. $50 million was out of the question. $40 million was a hopeful fantasy. And if push came to shove, $30 million would have to suffice. Anything below that threshold meant catastrophic losses. The capital chain would snap irretrievably. If it dropped to $1, $5 million. This worthless plot of land would become the stone that finally crushed Harper Enterprises. He didn't dare calculate, didn't dare even think about the mountain of debt he would face. He just stood there numb. After what felt like an eternity, Benjamin Harper finally came to his senses. He staggered, steadied by his assistant, then gritted his teeth and forced out, "Let's go in." But on the way, he saw numerous people leaving. Their expressions upon seeing him were almost universally awkward. They nodded brief greetings but averted their eyes. A few others wore mocking smirks, their amusement barely concealed. The deference once standard in their gazes toward him was completely gone. Benjamin Harper couldn't take another step. He sagged against the wall, watching the procession pass. It seemed utterly pointless to go inside now. The major buyers he had been counting on were already gone, leaving only the vultures, the ones looking for scraps. Some even had the gall to ask him directly if he'd sell it cheap, treating the land not as a valuable asset, but like a rotten cabbage at a farmer's market. The pressure became unbearable. Benjamin Harper's face drained of all color, his hands trembling violently. His pupils dilated, his gaze unfocused. He vaguely heard his assistant cry out his name, "Benjamin Harper!" A deafening roar filled his ears. His head lolled back, and he slid down the wall, collapsing onto the ground. At that very same moment, Victoria Harper's identity as the founder of Yian Group was leaked to TMZ. She made a breathtaking entrance at a philanthropic gala, arm in arm with Ethan. No one could have ever predicted that Victoria Harper was the head of Yian Group, a woman with a less than sterling reputation, someone who had always seemed rather pitiable growing up. How could she possibly be a business magnate? The very people who had once looked down on her now couldn't even meet her eyes, needing a long moment to compose themselves before cautiously approaching to offer greetings, slowly digesting the unbelievable truth. The Victoria Harper present tonight was starkly different from her usual self. Before, she often projected an air of languid indifference, like beautiful, decorative wallpaper, someone men felt tempted to trifle with. But tonight, she was the undisputed center of attention, a queen radiating an almost arrogant self-assurance. Confidence infused her every gesture. Her gaze was chillingly cool, her face an unreadable mask. Ethan, standing beside her, was equally formidable. With Victoria clearly the star of the evening, he seemed content in a supporting role, dressed in a simple yet elegant white suit, his steady gait perfectly synchronized with hers. Yet, even as her escort, his inherent aura of power was palpable, impossible for anyone to disregard. The business leaders arriving fresh from the auction site froze when they saw Victoria Harper. Even though Benjamin Harper had already warned them, the reality of seeing her, there was still a jolt. Benjamin Harper claims Victoria is out for revenge, that she was the one who got Victor sent to prison. Does that sound plausible to you? He said it himself, didn't he? No one put words in his mouth. Must be legit. I heard Victoria Harper's mother was driven to death by Benjamin Harper's wife. It makes sense she despised the Harper family, given how rough her life used to be. Who could have imagined the person who had it the hardest back then would end up the most powerful now? Thank God we never got on her bad side. Just look at how badly she crushed those who did. She didn't even spare her own brother. The Harper family is finished, and now it's Harper Enterprises' turn. We need to steer clear of Benjamin Harper from now on. Don't want to get caught in the crossfire. Harper Enterprises is a dumpster fire at this point. It's doomed. We need to choose our allegiance, and fast. So this gala tonight, is it basically a signal? Forcing us to pick sides. The undercurrent of these hushed conversations was unmistakable. As more people streamed into the venue, it became apparent they weren't just there for the spectacle. Their primary motive was to publicly sever ties with Benjamin Harper and align themselves with Victoria. Everyone who understood the game knew. Harper Enterprises was a sinking ship, and Victoria Harper was leading the charge to carve up the remains. Siding with her now might even yield a piece of the pie. Consequently, all eyes turned towards Victoria Harper with calculated deference. People greeted her with fervent enthusiasm, pressing business cards into her hand, desperate to make a memorable impression. However, Victoria's gaze lingered mostly on Ethan. Seeing this formidable woman appearing almost devoted beside him provoked gritted teeth among the other men, who cursed Ethan's extraordinary luck under their breath. The evening reached its crescendo when Victoria Harper ascended the stage to make two announcements. First, she declared her intention to develop a new Fifth Avenue project. She would be selecting suitable partners from the attendees. Those not chosen this time, she advised, shouldn't be discouraged. Her business interests were diverse, promising future opportunities for collaboration, and she would share breaking news with everyone promptly. Second, she formally announced that she had absolutely no affiliation with Harper and Harper Enterprises. The subtext screamed, whatever befell them, she wouldn't intervene. She delivered this pronouncement with a smile, yet her eyes remained glacial. Sweeping her gaze across the assembled crowd, she flashed a smile that was undeniably menacing, a clear warning to everyone present not to meddle. Anyone contemplating helping Harper Enterprises would henceforth be considered her enemy. With such a blatant declaration, the message was crystal clear. Even those who held lingering loyalties or old connections to Harper Enterprises immediately abandoned any thought of offering aid. Benjamin Harper had evidently wronged Victoria Harper far too grievously. What unforgivable sin had he committed? Was it because Amelia Harper had nearly succeeded in stealing Ethan away from her? Or perhaps she was exacting vengeance on Ethan's behalf? After all, during the fallout from Ethan's broken engagement, Benjamin Harper had viciously spread rumors, practically trying to ruin him. A chill ran down the spines of many in the crowd as they reflected on this, immensely relieved that they hadn't joined in kicking Ethan when he was down. Otherwise, they might be facing Victoria's wrath now. The irony was stark. The wasteland Ethan had acquired for a mere $5 million was now integral to the planned Fifth Avenue development, transforming that $5 million plot into land literally worth its weight in gold. While the gala buzzed with energy and ambition, the auction site remained desolate, its key figure having been rushed to the Mayo Clinic for emergency medical treatment. Predictably, both stories exploded on Twitter trends. Hashtag Victoria Harper and Group Boss, hashtag Ethan Victoria Harper, hashtag Westbrook District, hashtag Benjamin Harper collapses. The public reeled. The world had seemingly turned upside down. They had perceived Victoria Harper as just another member of the elite, albeit perhaps a somewhat marginalized one. Only days ago, upon hearing of the Harper family's bankruptcy and Victor's imprisonment, some had even expressed pity for her, assuming she was now destitute, unable to maintain her lavish Brooklyn brownstone lifestyle or afford luxury cars. How drastically the narrative had shifted. Now, they were confronted with the reality. Victoria Harper was a titan of industry, staggeringly wealthy, eclipsing both the Harper family fortune and Harper Enterprises combined. The bitter irony wasn't lost on anyone. Victor had desperately tried to ingratiate himself with the mysterious head of Yian Group, never suspecting the powerful figure was standing right before him, the very woman who would ultimately orchestrate his downfall and dispatch him to Springfield Correctional Facility. Viewers who had caught the Twitch stream remembered the moment Victoria had nonchalantly produced that platinum card, sparking whispers that her identity was far from simple. While online theories proposing Victoria as the Yian Group owner had circulated before, the majority had dismissed them as elaborate jokes or abstract trolling. Now, with the truth confirmed, netizens were losing their minds. Ethan instantly became public enemy number one across the web, comment sections erupting with cries of, "Stealing another man's woman is an unforgivable crime. Ethan, damn you for stealing our goddess. This means war. Man, you're one lucky guy. Having a beauty like her chase you. And she's secretly loaded too. I used to think they were a good match, but now Ethan just isn't good enough for Victoria Harper. Does it have to be Ethan? Boss Vic, maybe reconsider? Would a woman work? I volunteer to be Boss Victoria Harper's kept woman. Yeah, this time, Ethan is definitely punching above his weight. It's bad enough Victoria Harper is gorgeous, but how is she also this rich? What window did God possibly close for her? How is she so perfect? Victoria Harper must have one Ethan over already, right? They're always seen together. Rumors say they're living together. And now, they're attending events together. Just waiting for the official announcement. Did Ethan know all along that Victoria Harper was Yian Group? Does that mean he only liked her for her money? Yain Group. Yain sounds like her nickname in, but also like Ethan's name in. Their names are such a perfect match. I suspect Victoria Harper was thinking of Ethan when she founded Yain Group. Plus, I checked. Yain Group was the investor for Love on the Journey. So, Victoria Harper joined the production crew specifically for Ethan from the start. This wasn't a whim. It was premeditated. I shipped this so hard. The post above nailed it. So, all 3 female guests were actually after Ethan? Does he really have that much charm? He seems pretty average. After Victoria Harper's identity was revealed, the internet erupted. Most people felt Ethan wasn't good enough for Victoria Harper. The gap between them was just too vast. Firstly, Ethan was no longer the young master of the Johnson family. He had lost his biggest advantage, money and power. Compared to Victoria Harper, the difference wasn't just a little, it was enormous. A relationship needs balance to last. Too wide a gap means it won't go far. Ethan looked at Victoria Harper on the stage. Under the spotlight, she was so dazzling he couldn't tear his eyes away. Ethan, how did you and Victoria Harper meet? Why does she like you? She's so accomplished. Don't you feel pressured? Feel like you're not good enough for her? If you get together, will she be the breadwinner while you handle things at home? Will you become a stay-at-home husband in the future? The people around him had started whispering, but their hushed discussion grew bolder until someone actually addressed him directly. Ethan glanced coldly at the speaker, catching a hint of provocation in their eyes. Whether I'm good enough or not isn't for you to decide. I only need her acknowledgement. Many people were more outstanding than him. But so what? Victoria Harper liked only him. The only way he'd give up this relationship was if Victoria Harper didn't want him anymore. In Ethan's view, love wasn't about weighing pros and cons. It was a mutual journey. It wasn't 2 organs colliding, but 2 souls attracting each other. A good relationship should be about 2 people facing the world together. Since Victoria Harper had chosen him steadfastly, he wouldn't shrink back because of these words. After Benjamin Harper collapsed, he was rushed directly to the Mayo Clinic emergency room. Amelia hurried over immediately after receiving the call. She looked panicked, her hair disheveled from running. Panting, she asked about Benjamin Harper's condition. "Aaron, my dad, how is he?" she asked nervously, her eyes red and already misting over. Aaron wanted to say something comforting, to tell Amelia not to worry too much, but Benjamin Harper's condition was terrible. So bad he couldn't deceive himself, let alone her. "Ms. Harper, Benjamin Harper's condition is critical. The doctors say it's a hypertensive cerebral hemorrhage. He needs a craniotomy." Amelia's pupils contracted, and she nearly stumbled. She steadied herself against the wall. Facing Aaron's worried look, she opened her mouth, but countless words caught in her throat. Her assistant tried to console her. "Ms. Harper, Benjamin Harper only has you now. You absolutely cannot collapse. You need to stay by his side. I believe Benjamin Harper will be okay." Her face felt cold and numb. Amelia wiped the tears away, unable to comprehend. Just yesterday, her dad had been fine, counseling her about her relationship troubles in his study. He'd even said he would get a checkup and rest properly in a couple of days. He'd also said that once this busy period was over, he'd take her traveling abroad. It had been so long since the father-daughter duo had traveled overseas. It would be a good chance to relax, get out, meet new people, and quickly forget unhappy things. "So, Dad, you can't break your promise. You can't leave me all alone." Just as Amelia arrived, a nurse asked her to sign the surgical consent form. Her hand trembled, unable to grip the pen tightly. Holding the pen with her right hand, she pressed her left hand over her wrist. Trembling, she signed her name and then pressed her fingerprints one by one. "Doctor, is my father's condition serious? Will he be okay?" Amelia's voice was thick with unshed tears, her nose already stuffy. Tears rolled down again as she anxiously watched the nurse's lips, terrified of hearing bad news. The nurse shook her head. "It's hard to say. Hypertension causes many complications, and cerebral hemorrhage is extremely serious. A craniotomy isn't minor surgery either. A slight mistake could be fatal or lead to paralysis." All the nurse could do was try to soothe her emotions, tell her not to overthink, but also to prepare herself psychologically. Beyond that, Mayo Clinic couldn't make guarantees. No surgery has an absolute 100% success rate. Biting her lower lip, Amelia felt a chill despite the tightly closed windows in the Mayo Clinic. It felt as though she were submerged in ice water, her limbs stiffening, unable to do anything but watch the water slowly freeze around her, threatening to kill her. She covered her face and crumpled to the floor, sobbing, unable to hear anything. Oh, how she wished this was just a dream. Why wasn't she waking up? Why wasn't she waking up? After what felt like an eternity, a doctor and nurse came out. The patient's family? His condition is extremely critical right now. We need you to sign the critical condition notification. It felt like a death sentence. Amelia's ears were ringing. What did a critical condition notice mean? Did it mean her father was dying? How could that be possible? He had promised her he'd be home early for dinner tonight. Thanksgiving was just 2 days away. They were supposed to make a turkey dinner together. The nurse gently but firmly placed the pen in her hand, tapping her arm to remind her to sign. Fearing Amelia might not understand, she patiently explained Benjamin Harper's situation beside her. His condition was perilous. His heart had stopped once already. His breathing was shallow. Blood oxygen saturation was dropping. Given all these signs, the critical condition notice urgently needed Amelia's signature. This time, her hand shook even more violently. Midway through, the pen dropped from her grasp. She bit down hard on her own hand, using the pain to keep herself lucid. The trick worked. Amelia signed the form. Before she could even ask anything, the medical staff hurried away. She couldn't hold on any longer. Leaning against the wall, she broke down completely, sobbing uncontrollably. Outside, rain had begun to fall, a steady, dreary drizzle. She was terrified her father would have an accident, that he would leave her. In that moment, she desperately wished someone was there beside her, holding her, patting her shoulder reassuringly, telling her everything will be all right. But there was no one. She could only hug herself, her back growing colder and colder. The rain outside felt like it was falling directly on her, chilling her to the bone. The surgery had been going on for a long time, and Amelia had been waiting outside the entire time, not even eating lunch. Even if someone had forced her to eat, she wouldn't have been able to keep it down. She would have just thrown it up. She hugged her head, pulling at her hair, silently enduring the torment. In this moment, she thought of Ethan again. If only Ethan were here with her. What was Ethan doing now? Was he with Victoria Harper? Her assistant bought a hot bubble tea and handed it to Amelia. "Ms. Harper, have some bubble tea to warm yourself up." Amelia stared rigidly at the bubble tea in the assistant's hand. Only when the assistant gently shook the cup did she reach out with both hands to take it. The warmth seeped from her palms to her back, slightly dispelling the chill. "Thank you." The assistant didn't feel right leaving Amelia alone. As her assistant, these things were part of his job. But thinking about what happened today, he didn't know how Harper Enterprises would survive this crisis. Benjamin Harper was critically ill, and Harper Enterprises was precarious. Amelia was so young and inexperienced. It would be good enough if she didn't cause trouble after joining the company. Asking her to shoulder the burden would crush her. He had seen the Twitch streaming video online. The 2 announcements Victoria Harper made at the birthday charity ball were undoubtedly pushing Benjamin Harper towards his grave. It perfectly illustrated the saying, "Kick a man when he's down." Victoria Harper's methods were too ruthless, without hesitation. Everyone who attended the birthday charity ball had chosen to side with Victoria Harper, including many old acquaintances, people who had cooperated with Harper Enterprises, friends of Benjamin Harper for years who used to fish and play chess together, visiting and exchanging gifts during holidays. Once trouble struck, they all scattered. It was understandable. In this circle, husbands and wives fly their separate ways when disaster strikes. Even biological sons can be abandoned. So-called friendships were maintained by benefits. Encountering this kind of situation, it was already considered decent if it didn't kick you when you were down. Choosing to help Benjamin Harper now meant offending Victoria Harper. Not to mention Victoria Harper was also collaborating with the mysterious Mr. Yen online. Neither of these two was someone you could afford to offend. Who exactly was this Mr. Yen? Insiders called him the stock market god. He was the one who had hyped up this year's real estate market, reportedly making a profit of $300 million in just 1 or 2 months. This Mr. Yen was mysterious and low-key, just like the previous Yen group. No one had ever seen him. It was as if he had appeared out of nowhere. His actions were even bolder than Victoria Harper's past deeds. He dared to gamble, dared to fight. Nobody knew his name or even his gender. Some suspected Mr. Yen was Victoria Harper's alt account, but this was quickly denied by the person herself. Victoria Harper stated that Mr. Yen was incredibly capable, and she greatly admired him. A person admired by Victoria Harper, the boss of Yen Group, could practically be considered a god. The myths he created were unbreakable. When mentioning him, apart from marveling at his formidable strength, there was nothing else to say. The more mysterious, the more powerful they proved to be. Take Victoria Harper, for example. She had been mysterious for so many years. Who would have thought she founded Yen Group? It was best not to offend such people, let alone someone collaborating with Victoria Harper. A powerful alliance. Who would dare to offend them? Those who were once close to Benjamin Harper were now avoiding him whenever possible. The assistant didn't want to talk about these things. Firstly, Amelia was fragile, with low tolerance for stress. He didn't want to say anything, but Amelia insisted on asking, like knowingly walking toward a knife poised to strike. "Aaron, can you tell me what happened today? Why did my Benjamin Harper suddenly collapse? He was fine this morning." Amelia watched the assistant's expression as she spoke, seeing the reluctance and pity on his face. Her already tense nerves tightened, squeezing her heart even more. "Was there an accident at the birthday charity ball? I heard Benjamin Harper say he was going to auction off that plot of land in the Westbrook district to cover the shortfall. Did the land not sell?" The assistant sighed helplessly. "It couldn't be sold." "What do you mean?" Fearing Amelia couldn't handle it, the assistant said, "Ms. Harper, let's not talk about work matters today. You just need to stay with Benjamin Harper and wait for him to wake up. Aaron, I'm not a child. As Lady Harper, I have the right to know what happened. I want to know why Benjamin Harper suddenly collapsed." The more reluctant Aaron was to speak, the more it proved the seriousness of the situation. He was afraid telling her now would hurt her. Amelia bit her lip tightly. "Aaron, I can handle it. Tell me." Aaron met her gaze for 3 seconds, then sighed and nodded, recounting the events of the morning to Amelia. "Currently, Harper Enterprises' situation is very bleak, miss. You need to be prepared." "Prepared for what? Like Richard Johnson and Victor Harper?" Amelia clenched her fists, her knuckles turning white. After listening to the assistant, Amelia's eyes reddened. What she had constantly worried about had finally happened. She hated Victoria Harper, hated her for striking a fatal blow, disregarding any past affections. Harper Enterprises had made mistakes, but they didn't deserve death. Why did Victoria Harper have to press so hard, driving them to ruin? Large tears rolled down her cheeks. She buried her head in her hands. Her psychological resilience was truly poor. Even though she had braced herself, she still crumbled after hearing the assistant's words. The bubble tea in her hand remained untouched, eventually growing cold. Outside, the rain continued to fall under a misty sky. Finally, the director came out. Benjamin Harper was sent to the observation lounge. He was not out of danger yet. His condition was poor, with a high probability of stroke and paralysis. When she heard this outcome, Amelia was stunned. She looked at Benjamin Harper being wheeled out of the operating room. 50 years old wasn't that old for Benjamin Harper. He was usually a handsome Uncle Hayes, not looking his actual age. But now his head was shaved, his face pale and bloodless. It had been so long since she had looked closely at her father. When had so many wrinkles appeared on his face? His face had become thin and drawn. He looked so peaceful he seemed breathless, as if he could die at any moment. When she heard the words stroke and paralysis, Amelia simply froze like a broken machine glitching to a halt. It was as if her body had triggered a self-preservation function, curling up inside a hard shell, losing all reaction to the outside world. "No, my Benjamin Harper happened to be paralyzed." Amelia had seen someone paralyzed by a stroke before, her maternal grandfather. He lay in bed, needing constant care, unable to move his body, slurring his words, mouth agape, and drooling. Due to being bedridden for years, his muscles had atrophied. He needed help being turned over just to use the toilet. He often cried in pain because he couldn't defecate. His entire body was thin, but his stomach was bloated like an overinflated balloon. Unable to truly live, yet unable to die, his death had been particularly unsightly. When her grandfather was ill, she hadn't liked visiting him at all. She was afraid she would end up like that herself, afraid her father would become like that when he got old. If she became paralyzed, she would rather die. But now, the director was telling her that Benjamin Harper's future was total paralysis, unable to move below the neck. The doctor's words hit her like a bomb. Amelia's mind went blank, her eyes glazing over like stagnant water, devoid of thought. Amelia asked, her voice trembling, "Can't he be cured?" The doctor shook his head. In milder cases, some recovery is possible over time. But Benjamin Harper's injury is in the brain ventricle. The chance of recovery is very small. The doctor was putting it gently, but Amelia wasn't naive. Benjamin Harper's condition was like her grandfather's, severe hemiplegia. The possibility of recovery was zero. Benjamin Harper's hypertension was already severe, the doctor continued. If he'd come to the Mayo Clinic for checkups earlier, combined with dietary control, it could have been stabilized. Furthermore, we detected traces of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs and other substances in his blood. Amelia asked urgently, "What do you mean?" The doctor replied, "Has Benjamin Harper been taking any unprescribed medications recently?" Certain drugs are strictly contraindicated for people with hypertension, like common over-the-counter medications such as aspirin, ibuprofen, ephedrine. Improper use by hypertensive patients can lead to severe cardiovascular events, even threatening their life. There were also issues with his diet control. Everyone at Harper Enterprises knew Benjamin Harper had high blood pressure. He was usually careful with his diet. He had been working overtime recently, taking medication daily due to stress, and always carried it with him. He wouldn't just take random drugs. Diet control? Everyone in our family knows Dad has high blood pressure. We'd never give him things he shouldn't eat. Panic seized Amelia's heart. A suspicion began to form, but she didn't dare dwell on it. The doctor stated, "Perhaps you weren't aware of it. We rely on the blood test results." Benjamin Harper's collapse likely had two triggers. First, his recent routine of late nights and overtime, combined with emotional stress. He had previously fainted due to high blood pressure, even ending up in the Mayo Clinic and vomiting blood. He should have been resting, but with the Victor situation, he had to shoulder the burden, hoping to resolve things quickly so he could rest. The second trigger was the medication, adding insult to injury for his already compromised health. This, combined with the stress, led to the cerebral hemorrhage. The Mayo Clinic had discovered these issues during Benjamin Harper's examination, relaying them to his assistant as Amelia wasn't present then. When Amelia arrived, she was in a daze, barely registering the document she signed or the words the nurses spoke. Amelia had never felt such terror. She rarely broke down, but this utter despair, this uncontrollable sobbing, it reminded her of the day her mother died in the car crash. Helplessly, she clutched at the doctor's white coat as if it were a lifeline. The once bold and proud Lady Harper was now kneeling on the floor. "Doctor, I'm begging you, please save my dad. He's only 50 this year, he's still so young." She couldn't bear the thought of her father ending up like her grandfather, bedridden and unable to care for himself. For a man as fiercely independent as him, that would be worse than death. Her father had been strong-willed his entire life. The Mayo Clinic had seen its share of life, death, and everything in between. Prayers were never in short supply here. More earnest pleas were likely uttered outside operating rooms than in any church. It's when faced with utter helplessness that people turn to a higher power, hoping for divine intervention, praying her father would receive heaven's grace. Benjamin Harper had sailed through life smoothly for so many years. This first stumble was catastrophic, costing him not only Harper Enterprises, but his own health as well. The doctor had heard countless pleas like this. He felt sympathy, but kept his expression neutral. Showing emotion wouldn't help. Out of professional responsibility, he couldn't offer Amelia false hope, only advise her to try and accept the situation. Take it one step at a time. As long as there's life, there's always a chance, however small. What if a miracle did happen? The assistant, Erin, gently but firmly helped Amelia to her feet. Her raw, choked sobs echoed in the hallway. Her face was flushed, and she gasped for breath as if she might faint. Erin patted her shoulder. "Ms. Harper, you need to be strong. Mr. Harper needs you." All Amelia could do now was stay by Benjamin Harper's side. Anything else felt beyond her control, whether she was involved or not. Amelia leaned against Erin, her sobs gradually subsiding. She choked out, "Erin, someone did this to my dad. He was drugged. Even though working overtime took a toll on his health, he would never take medication carelessly. Who would possibly drug Benjamin Harper?" It was a baffling question. Amelia decided to report it to the police for investigation. Erin said, "I was always with Mr. Harper during work hours. It seems unlikely anyone could have drugged him then, but you can never be completely sure. There are always moments. What about a home? It's all family at home. I can't imagine who would do such a thing." Amelia's thoughts were a tangled mess, like a knotted ball of yarn, getting worse the more she tried to unravel it. Erin suggested, if he was drugged, it was most likely through his food or drink. "Has anyone new been cooking recently?" Amelia was about to say no, but then she suddenly remembered. William had taken an interest in making soup recently. "Did you think of someone?" Erin asked. Amelia gripped his arm tightly, her hand trembling slightly. "William, he's been making soup recently. My dad drank some." "If it was him, it's highly possible," Erin mused. "Mr. Harper kept pushing for your divorce. It's conceivable William resented him for that." With a potential suspect identified, the police investigation would be more focused. "Did my dad take his medication during the day?" Amelia asked. "Yes," I reminded Mr. Harper every day," Erin said, sounding regretful. "He's been under a lot of stress lately, often feeling dizzy, and his blood pressure kept climbing. If only I could have convinced him to rest properly." Maybe he wouldn't have ended up back at the Mayo Clinic. Where are my dad's pills? I want to see them. Simply adding something to the soup wouldn't explain the high concentration of drugs detected. Amelia suspected his actual medication might have been swapped. Aaron retrieved a small pill bottle from Benjamin Harper's coat pocket and handed it to Amelia. These are the pills Mr. Harper usually takes. Amelia opened the bottle and stared at the small white pills inside, unable to discern any difference. A wave of guilt washed over her. She'd cared too little about her father's health. She knew he wasn't well and took medication daily, but she had no idea what he was taking. When Benjamin Harper first started taking medication after getting sick, she used to ask about his condition. But as time went on, seeing him take his pills became routine, and she grew accustomed to it. If she had paid more attention, checked on him daily, maybe she could have noticed something was wrong sooner. Could this whole tragedy have been avoided? They had a dedicated medicine cabinet at home. William was home all day. Honestly, the suspicion falling on him was strong. However, reluctant Amelia was to admit it. Amelia clutched the pill bottle tightly. Aaron, could you please take this downstairs to the lab? Have them test the contents. See if these pills are harmful to hypertensive patients. Okay, I'll go right away. The assistant took the bottle and left. The waiting was agonizing. Benjamin Harper lay in the intensive care unit, and all Amelia could do was keep vigil outside, unable to go in. Amelia's fingers grew numb with cold, her hand trembling as she held her phone. She found William's contact and dialed. It rang for about 10 seconds before he answered. Amelia? What's up? William, where are you? The background noise on his end was loud. She could clearly tell he wasn't at home. Listening closely, she recognized the distinct sound of patient numbers being called out, the sound of the Mayo Clinic waiting area. Amelia Harper heard the Mayo Clinic paging announcement through the phone. William, where are you right now? I wasn't feeling well, so I came to the Mayo Clinic today, William replied calmly. Amelia, what's up? Nothing. I just wanted to ask if you put anything strange in the soup you made yesterday. I'm not feeling very well. It was just regular chicken noodle soup. William's voice clearly tensed. You're not feeling well? Is it serious? Do you need to come to the Mayo Clinic? Aunt Linda was watching me while I made it, so there shouldn't be any problems. The ingredients were all healthy things, tonics really only good for you. It wouldn't make you sick. If you're really worried, come get checked out at the Mayo Clinic. I'll wait for you. I'm already here anyway. His words were flawless, leaving no room for doubt. Amelia Harper didn't want it to be William. If William was the one who had harmed her dad, wasn't that the same as her harming him? She had genuinely loved William once, wanted to marry him, even imagined spending her whole life with him. They were family, their bond deeper than friendship. They were childhood sweethearts who had grown up together. He was part of every stage, from getting to know each other to falling in love, through separation and reunion, missed chances and reconciliation, right up to their wedding ceremony now. She truly hoped the person who hurt her father wasn't William. It's nothing serious, just a bit of diarrhea. Come home soon after you finish at the doctor's. Okay. After hanging up, Amelia Harper slumped onto the chair, waiting for Aaron Hayes to return. Aaron Hayes was back within half an hour, holding the test results. Ms. Harper, the medication was swapped. A roar filled Amelia Harper's head. She bit down hard, her eyes filled with hatred. This isn't the medicine Benjamin Harper was taking. The components in here are just as you suspected, substances harmful to hypertensive patients. Amelia felt a surge of rage, the metallic taste of blood already coating her throat. After delivering the news, her assistant looked at her with a complicated expression, hesitating as if wanting to say more. Amelia noticed. What else is there? Tell me. I can take it. She had to endure it, whether she could or not. It wasn't easy news to deliver. The assistant mulled it over, trying to phrase it, but realizing there was no good way, he just blurted it out. Ms. Harper, I saw William downstairs. I'm not sure if I saw correctly. He was wearing a mask and sunglasses, and he was with a woman. The woman was holding a baby, and they looked unusually close. It's possible I was mistaken. There weren't many people around at that time. Aaron Hayes had only accidentally spotted them in a corridor. Their body language was intimate. William even reached out to hold the baby for a moment before the two of them left through a back exit. The assistant suspected it might be William's secret child from an affair. He couldn't help thinking the worst. Benjamin Harper had just been poisoned. William was the prime suspect, and now this? It was hard to view William in a positive light. People are like that. Once deceived, your perception of them is forever fractured. It's like catching a thief. If something else gets stolen later, he's the first one suspected because he has a record. The assistant worried Amelia wouldn't be able to handle it, but surprisingly, she didn't cry or break down. Her eyes were just terrifyingly red, brimming with hatred. I just called William. He said he was inside the Mayo Clinic. The person you saw must have been him. You weren't mistaken. Aaron Hayes, where did you see William? Is he still there? He probably hasn't left yet. I want to go see. Help me investigate the woman he was with. Okay, you go. I'll handle things here. Amelia Harper was pitiful enough already. No support, her father critically ill, her supposed husband not only useless but also cheating, and now possibly the one who harmed Benjamin Harper. She looked utterly wretched. Aaron felt compelled to help however he could. With Aaron Hayes watching over things, Amelia felt slightly more at ease. She ran downstairs. As she exited the building, a blast of cold wind hit her face, making her shiver uncontrollably. She headed toward the area Aaron had described, searching for William. Finally, she spotted him in the parking lot. Among all the cars, she saw him instantly because William was driving her car. Amelia Harper had never suspected William of cheating. He had acted so devoted, so in love with her. They had been confidants. He had promised her he would do anything for her. But now, what was she seeing? William carefully took an infant from the woman's arms. The woman smiled gently, reaching up to playfully tease the baby. She leaned her head against William's shoulder, an intimate gesture. They looked like a loving couple, a harmonious family of three. So what did that make her? Amelia Harper let out a laugh. Ridiculous. It was utterly ridiculous. She was the world's most pathetic fool. The trust she had placed in William now felt like a vicious slap across the face, the pain sharp and deep. Was this the man she had abandoned Ethan for? The man she chose to marry? He cheated. He lacked any sense of responsibility. He repaid kindness with malice, harming her own father. He was hypocritical, selfish, sanctimonious. Every negative word imaginable applied to him. Her dad had seen William for what he was long ago, but she refused to believe it, stubbornly insisting on being with him. Now, her karma had arrived. Sobbing turned into wails. Amelia Harper crouched down, burying her face in her hands. She cried for her wasted efforts, all for nothing, and even more for her terrible judgment of character. Slap. Amelia forcefully slapped her own face. Idiot. You're such an idiot. Slap. Why didn't you listen to Dad? Why did you choose William? Slap. Idiot. It's all your fault for running away from your wedding to be with William. Slap. Idiot. You ruined Harper Enterprises. You hurt Dad. Slap. Idiot. You deserve this. You dragged your family down with you. Slap. Idiot. You should be the one lying in that hospital bed. Slap. Idiot. No wonder Ethan doesn't want you. You're just a cheap simp, a fool tricked out of everything by William. Slap. Slap. As dusk settled, the dim parking lot echoed with the sharp sounds of slaps and Amelia Harper's broken sobs. She fiercely wiped the tears from her face. Her cheeks no longer felt cold, they burned. Without looking, she could feel they were already swollen. Amelia Harper had hit herself harder than she'd ever hit anyone, yet she felt no pain in her face. The ache in her heart was 1,000 times worse. Her lip was bleeding where she'd bitten it. She pushed herself up, her legs numb and heavy, and stumbled back upstairs, step by agonizing step. Aaron Hayes was stunned by Amelia Harper's wretched appearance. He asked in a heavy voice, "Did William hit you?" Amelia Harper shook her head. "Not him." She looked up at her assistant. Who would have thought that in the most desperate moment of her life, the person by her side would be one of her father's employees? No family, no lover, no friends. For the first time, she felt like her entire life had been an utter failure. Aaron Hayes, you were right. That was William. He's cheating on me. William Hayes cheated. Are you sure? Aaron looked at Amelia, feeling like she had shattered a little more. And how could she not? So much had happened in one day. Anyone less resilient would probably have fainted by now. Maybe it was just a friend. Don't jump to conclusions yet. Let's wait for the investigation results. Amelia's expression was numb. She had seen it with her own eyes, witnessed the tenderness William Hayes showed that child. She knew the look of a father doting on his child. William's gaze towards that child was so much like Benjamin Harper's when he looked at her. Body language, expressions. They couldn't lie. If there was nothing between them, that woman wouldn't have been leaning against William's chest. They truly looked like a family of three. In contrast, she felt like the superfluous third wheel. Tears streamed down her cheeks, stinging like fire. She covered her face, her eyes vacant, as if half her soul had been ripped away. Night had fallen. William Hayes, still oblivious to what had transpired, called Amelia. He asked when she was coming home, telling her he had finished making soup. Amelia gripped her phone tightly. I'll be late tonight. Working overtime. William sensed her tone wasn't quite normal and assumed she was just stressed from work. You're already back at Harper Enterprises. Why are you still working? Maybe you should just quit. It pains me to see you working so hard. How could someone act so well? Amelia thought, saying such things without batting an eye. If she hadn't seen that scene in the parking lot, she might have actually believed William still loved and cared for her. Okay, she said flatly. You guys go ahead and eat. Don't wait for me. What about Uncle Hayes? William asked. Amelia glanced towards the intensive care unit doors and hung up without another word. Just as she hung up, Aaron approached with a file. Ms. Harper, the investigation results are in. So quickly? Amelia thought, surprised. She had expected it to take longer. Aaron had already skimmed it. Even as an observer, what he read infuriated him. He could only imagine how Amelia would feel. Give it to me. Amelia took the file from Aaron. Pictures, text, the proof was all there. Sophia, William Hayes's former assistant. Her face often appeared alongside William's in candid photos found online. No wonder she looked familiar. Amelia read on. They had gotten involved a year ago. Sophia then became pregnant and resigned. She had only reconnected with William 3 months ago, when she was already close to giving birth. While Amelia had been planning their wedding ceremony with him, William had been secretly contacting Sophia. He hadn't just met with her. He had arranged for her care at the Mayo Clinic, found her a place to live, accompanied her to doctor's appointments, and even transferred $5 million to her. He had thought of everything. In that moment, Amelia finally understood the pain Ethan must have endured. Betrayal. Yes, betrayal. The one thing she hated most in the world. She never wanted those close to her to betray her. Yet she herself had betrayed and hurt Ethan time and time again. Now, the boomerang had returned, hitting her squarely. Now she knew what it tasted like. There's no true empathy in this world, not unless you experience it firsthand. William Hayes, her husband, the man who caused her father's paralysis. He had betrayed her, already having an illegitimate child while planning their wedding ceremony. On the very day they registered their marriage, his child was born at the Mayo Clinic nearby. It was sickening. How could something so utterly disgusting exist in the world? The sheer disgust made Amelia retch. A dry heave escaped her lips. Having eaten nothing, she only brought up bitter while that burned her throat. Her eyes were rimmed with red. The whites shot through with dense veins, and tears fell, splashing onto the floor. Aaron quickly pulled out some tissues for her and gently patted her back. No words of comfort would help now. All he could do was stay by her side in silence. Amelia was still so young, Aaron thought, yet she had already endured so many devastating blows. Her wedding ruined, her uncle imprisoned, her husband cheating, her father critically ill, and next, the bankruptcy of Harper Enterprises. If Harper Enterprises collapsed, where would Amelia, this Lady Harper, go? Where'd she belong? Aaron couldn't fathom how Harper Enterprises could possibly recover. Even if Amelia resorted to using her looks to secure a marriage with a wealthy man, who would dare marry her under these circumstances? At 8:50 p.m., Benjamin Harper's condition stabilized. He was out of immediate danger. Amelia reported the incident to the police, officially filing a case. The police went directly to the Harper residence, arrested William Hayes, and confiscated the home surveillance recordings along with the soup that had just been served. It was a criminal investigation, requiring everyone's cooperation. The police began questioning people one by one. Mr. Stevens, still unaware of the full situation, frantically called Amelia. Ms. Harper, bad news. Mr. Hayes was just taken away by the police. You need to come back right away, he exclaimed. I'm the one who called them, Amelia stated flatly. Mr. Stevens was stunned into silence. When the police knocked, William Hayes himself answered the door. With a guilty conscience, the sight of the officers made him break out in a cold sweat, his eyes darting nervously. A trained professional could tell immediately something was wrong. The officers arresting him at the Harper residence were the same ones who had taken Richard Johnson away previously. They were becoming quite familiar with this family. Looks like they're getting some year-end performance boosts, one might cynically think, with the new year approaching. William Hayes, you are suspected of poisoning. Please come with us for questioning. While William was reeling in shock and terror, the police showed their identification and escorted him to their car. William's heart plummeted, his face turned ashen. He forced a dry laugh and struggled slightly. Officers, there must be some misunderstanding. How could I possibly poison anyone? Are you sure you haven't got the wrong person? Whether there's a misunderstanding or not will become clear once the results are in. Rest assured, we won't wrongly accuse an innocent person, nor will we let a guilty one escape. This is simply an investigation. You haven't been charged with anything yet. We just need you to come with us and assist our investigation. If there's no issue, we will release you immediately. With the police putting it that way, William knew he couldn't refuse. Struggling too much would only arouse more suspicion. Feeling utterly uncertain and hesitant for a moment, he was then guided firmly into the police car by the officers. His heart pounded erratically, and his back was drenched in cold sweat. He knew better than anyone whether he had committed a crime. He had drugged Benjamin Harper, secretly adding traditional Chinese medicine to the soup he prepared daily. The concoction wouldn't harm a healthy person, but for someone with hypertension, it would worsen their condition. If they actually found something, his plan was to deny everything. After all, the ingredients he added looked like common, harmless health supplements. Besides adding herbs to the soup, he had also secretly swapped out some of the pills in Benjamin Harper's medicine bottle. Being cautious and afraid of raising suspicion, he had only replaced a small amount, about half a bottle's worth. He had calculated the timing carefully, ensuring the swap pills would be consumed before he planned to leave the Harper household. Then, once he was gone, Benjamin Harper's condition would deteriorate, his hypertension would flare up, and by that point, it would likely be difficult to detect the specific drugs in his bloodstream. Furthermore, the pills he used for the swap were common medications readily available in the house. William Hayes had tried to be meticulous, but he never anticipated Benjamin Harper collapsing at this specific time. Once admitted to the Mayo Clinic, the blood tests immediately revealed irregularities. A chill went down William's spine as he sat restlessly in the police car. The medicine bottle found on Benjamin Harper would be tested for fingerprints. His prints would surely be on it. And he had added the usual herbs to the soup today as well. The physical evidence was all there. William was true to his nature, impulsive and reckless, possessing a touch of cunning but not enough intelligence. His schemes were too full of holes to withstand scrutiny, making success elusive. Yet, he possessed an inexplicable confidence, believing everything was under his control, only to fail at every attempt. He was incompetent yet destructive. The moment he saw the police and the soup they confiscated, William knew it was over. They were after him. He wanted to deny everything, but he overestimated his own fortitude. Locked in the observation lounge, he cracked before they even laid a hand on him. William broke down, his hands trembling uncontrollably. "Where did you buy the drug?" "I had someone help me buy it." "Who?" "Sophia Thompson." "Who is Sophia Thompson? What's your relationship?" "My former assistant." "Did she know you were buying the drug to harm someone?" "I didn't mean to harm anyone." William knew what he should and shouldn't say. Even if they'd already guessed, he wouldn't admit it. "Why did you drug Benjamin Harper?" "I want to see my lawyer." From then on, no matter what the police asked, William had only one response: call his lawyer. But he didn't actually have a lawyer. The only person he could possibly call was Amelia Harper. He pinned all his hopes on her, hoping she would remember their history and believe him this one time. William nervously held his phone, not dialing immediately. He mentally rehearsed his script, settling on his tactics before finally making the call. First call, no answer. Second call, rejected. Just as William was about to try a third time, footsteps approached from outside. He lifted his head sluggishly. When he saw it was Amelia Harper, he shot to his feet. "Amelia, are you here to get me out? You have to believe me, I didn't drug Uncle Hayes. I love you so much. How could I possibly hurt your father? I couldn't bear to see you sad." Amelia Harper's pupils under the fluorescent lights were like two black ghost stones, empty and still, like a pair of bottomless, lonely wells. A desolate feeling washed over anyone who met her gaze. Amelia Harper stared at him for a long moment, then let out a bitter laugh. "You love me." Hearing her raw voice, William's stomach dropped, and dread washed over him. Amelia Harper walked towards him step by step, the sharp clicking of her heels on the floor sounding particularly jarring. He fought the urge to shrink away. Amelia threw the file and photos she held in her hands at William. "You love me? Then what is this? Tell me what this is." "What was it?" The photos hit his head and scattered across the floor. William looked down at the pictures of Sophia Thompson. The most recent one was from today, showing him accompanying Sophia Thompson to the Mayo Clinic to get their child vaccinated. William's eyes widened instantly, various emotions flickering across his face, as if his darkest secrets had been laid bare. "Amelia, let me explain. It's not what you think." "All right then, explain where this illegitimate child came from. Explain why you were still contacting Sophia Thompson on our wedding day. You three make quite the happy family, don't you? If things were so good, why marry me? What does that make me?" Amelia screamed, her voice raw. "You talk about loving me, but you lied to me again and again, treating me like an idiot. If betraying me wasn't enough, why did you have to drug my father?" Amelia lifted her purse and smashed it against William's head. Still not satisfied, she followed up with several sharp slaps. William didn't flinch. He knelt on the floor, letting Amelia hit him until she exhausted herself. I'm sorry, Amelia. I know I was wrong. Sophia Thompson was just a mistake. I don't love her. I've only ever loved you. She threatened me with the pregnancy. Said if I didn't give her money and spend time with her, she'd tell you. I was terrified of losing you. That's why I did those things with her. You have to believe me. Amelia, save me. Give me a lawyer. I don't want to go to jail. Once I'm out, you can beat me however you want. Amelia wished she had a knife to stab him or to carve slices of flesh from his body. She hated William, but she also hated herself. Hated that she'd clung to their past, nurturing this wolf who had now harmed her father. Beat you? I wish I could kill you. Why did you drug Benjamin Harper? Do you have any idea that my dad is lying in the Mayo Clinic right now, his life hanging by a thread? The doctors worked on him all day. Even if he wakes up, he'll be paralyzed from the stroke. William had guessed Benjamin Harper was in trouble, but he hadn't expected it to be this severe. Amelia, I only drugged him to punish him a little. I never wanted him to die. Amelia, I was just bitter. We just gotten married, and he forced us to divorce. Marriage should be between two people, but he kept interfering, telling you what to do. I lost my temper and made a mistake. He always found excuses for himself. Amelia Harper clenched her fists again, fury boiling within her, murder flashing in her eyes. Still making excuses. I was the one who wanted the divorce. If you wanted to hurt someone, you should have come after me. You talk about love, but you've done nothing but hurt me. You were cheating long ago, yet you put on such a devoted act. You didn't marry me because you loved me, but for more money. You're just a selfish, greedy fool. After your father died, you were supposed to go to Hope Springs foster home. It was my dad who took you in. Growing up, whatever I had, you had too. Harper Enterprises paid for your education, sent you abroad. When you wanted to be an actor, how much money did Harper Enterprises sink into you? I didn't expect gratitude, but I didn't expect betrayal either. And look what you've done. It was laughable. Only now did she see William's true colors. If only she had listened when her father first warned her to stay away, none of this would have happened. But there were no if-onlys. Her dad had called her stubborn, the type who wouldn't turn back until she hit a brick wall. Now she'd finally hit it, battered and bleeding. No one had told her hitting the wall would hurt this much. Amelia attacked William like a madwoman. No one could stop her. The couple once hailed on Twitter as childhood sweethearts were now bitter enemies. Who could have imagined that the man Amelia Harper had run away to marry would turn out to be the knife plunged into her back and her father's? The blows hurt William. A cut opened near his eye, looking like a tear of blood. Perhaps realizing Amelia wouldn't save him now that everything was exposed, he threw caution to the wind, snarling in anger. Me cheating? When I was with Sophia Thompson, you were with Ethan. Why do you have to call me a cheater? Sophia and I were only together for half a year. You and Ethan were together for 3 years. You think you're any better? You married me reluctantly, using me as a tool to spite Ethan. And my dad, your mom killed him. None of you Harpers are any good. If your mom hadn't seduced my dad, he wouldn't have died. Destruction is always the easiest path, just like now. William shattered the illusion of happiness with almost no effort. Amelia's ears rang, her mind blanking out as she wondered if she was hallucinating. She stared at William's mocking expression. What are you saying? What do you mean my mom seduced your dad and got him killed? William, make yourself clear. William wiped the blood from the corner of his eye and sneered. Did I not make myself clear enough? Like mother, like daughter. Infidelity runs in your blood. Your mom cheated with Benjamin Harper and got my dad killed. You cheated with Ethan and betrayed me. Don't even try to deny it. From Ethan's perspective, you betrayed him. Everyone saw you ditch him at the altar. You really think you're innocent. My mom would never cheat. You're lying. Why not? You think she was some kind of saint? She chose my dad as a driver because she liked his face. What kind of rich housewife needs to work so often, always running errands? You really believe every time she dragged my dad out, it was for business? She wanted to spend time with him. The spa trips, shopping, tea time, client meetings. They were all just excuses. Think about it. How many times did you want to go with her, and she said no? Because you'd ruin her little dates. And, at home, don't you think she treated our driver a bit too well? Inviting him to dine with you, dragging him everywhere. But whenever your dad was home, she stopped, because she was guilty, afraid he'd find out. You're disgusting. Amelia screamed, raising her hand to slap William, but he caught her wrist mid-air. His grip tightened as he grinned coldly. You know I'm not lying. You just don't want to admit it. You know why you're pathetic and naive? Because you take after her. Your mom couldn't resist seducing people, saw my dad's athletic build, and couldn't wait to crawl into bed with him. Amelia's eyes widened. Hatred surged through her, but underneath it, a deeper resistance brewed. She couldn't believe William. Believing him would mean betraying her own mother. She remembered her mother's gentle voice, the way she'd hold her at night and tell stories, their family photo still hanging on the bedroom wall, a copy of it sitting on her father's desk. How could her mom not love her dad? She used to make him hangover soup when he drank too much. She never forgot his birthday or their anniversary, and always planned surprises. Whenever he had late meetings, she'd leave a light on for him. She picked out his clothes, down to the cufflinks. Amelia had watched her mother straighten her dad's tie, kiss him goodbye at the door, and smile during candlelit dinners at the Cheesecake Factory. And now someone was telling her it was all a lie. Like everything she'd ever believed was crumbling beneath her feet. She couldn't trust William. She shouldn't trust him. He was just an outsider. How could a few words from him unravel her entire life? Don't believe me? William scoffed, shaking her off. He gave her an account name and told her to log in. There's a surprise waiting for you. Once you see it, you'll know if I'm lying. Why did Emily Harper cheat? It wasn't hard to guess. Benjamin Harper was always working, proud, and emotionally distant. Emily felt like their marriage was a cold glass of water, lifeless and passionless. She couldn't feel his love. In that self-doubt, she started noticing William's father, their handsome, charming driver. While still enjoying the money Benjamin provided, she sought emotional intimacy from someone else. She wanted it all, greedy and selfish. Using work as an excuse, she began an affair with the driver. But then came the car crash. Both of them died. Every time they went out, they disabled the car's dash cam. Their phones were clean. Emily was careful. She was terrified of Benjamin divorcing her. Even though their marriage appeared equal, Emily was always a step below him, dependent, afraid, and emotionally drained. Over time, she began resenting it, questioning her worth, her attractiveness. The driver brought excitement, flavor to an otherwise bland existence. Amelia pulled out her phone. Right in front of William, she downloaded the app and logged in using the account and password he'd given her. After several verifications, she reached the final step, but she hesitated. What if it crushed everything she believed in? What if it shattered her childhood memories beyond repair? Fear screamed in her head, warning her not to look. Her body resisted, like it was trying to protect her. William chuckled beside her. Scared. Taking a deep breath, Amelia tapped the screen with trembling fingers, and photos began to load. They were old and blurry, aged with time. But even from the first glance, Amelia recognized her mother. She saw Emily Harper in bed, caught in various intimate poses under a man. She searched for signs of reluctance or pain, anything to prove she'd been forced. But there was none. Photo after photo showed passion, desire, genuine emotion. Amelia couldn't even remember the look her mom used to give her dad anymore. All she remembered was her smile. And now she wondered, were those smiles ever real? If finding out about William's affair and illegitimate child disgusted her, then this. This was soul-crushing. She felt dizzy, suffocated, like the room was spinning. It was as if something wild had awakened inside her, roaring to life, ripping, tearing, trying to bury every memory she couldn't face. She didn't need to see all the photos. Just a few had already broken the dam. She hadn't forgotten everything after all. She just needed a trigger. And now she remembered. The junk room in the yard. Her mom, locked in an embrace with the driver. The red rubber ball slipping from her hand, running to retrieve it and freezing in place. Her mom turning to look at her, panic in her eyes, face drained of color. She was too young to understand back then, but she'd sensed something terrifying. Her mom had told her it was their secret, that if she ever spoke about it, her mom would vanish like Cinderella's bubble in a fairy tale. Back then, Amelia was just a child, naive and unquestioning. She believed whatever her mom told her. And over time, like all children, she forgot. Until now, a thud echoed as the phone hit the floor. The brutal reality was laid bare before her. The perfect family she believed in was nothing but smoke and mirrors. You believe me now, don't you? William sneered. You and your mother are the same. Shameless simps, desperate for attention. You call me disgusting for cheating? You're the truly disgusting ones. If you really loved Ethan, would you have fallen for my cheap tricks? If you cared so much, why run from the wedding? Why trash him on Twitter before anything else? He didn't stop there. And your father, Benjamin Harper, the drug I gave him was ordinary. It wouldn't have caused issues before. He's only like this now because you push him too far. He's sick, hospitalized, and you didn't even call. Now you're playing the devoted daughter? Who's this act for? With a disappointing daughter and a cheating wife. He's a complete failure as a man. Everyone connected to you ends up miserable. Look at Ethan. He's so much better off without you. If you'd married him, he'd just have ended up like Benjamin Harper. That's why I said it. You and your mother are poison. Rotten to the core, disgusting through and through. If it wasn't for the Harper Enterprises money, I wouldn't have touched you even if you threw yourself at me. You brought all of this on yourself. William felt no guilt saying this. He'd initially thought his own actions were shameful, but compared to Amelia, were they really so different? It took two to tango. Why should he apologize when she was physically attacking him? Both were at fault. His hatred for her was raw, undisguised. If her mother hadn't seduced his father for cheap thrills, his dad wouldn't be dead. If Amelia hadn't led him on, he wouldn't have become obsessed, wouldn't have driven himself to this point. Yes, he was greedy, but she had nurtured that greed. Why awaken his desires only to deny them? She played two men, milking them for benefits, one for lifestyle, one for emotional support. She took everything, gave nothing. How was that fair? He was sickened by her. He wanted to destroy her. Amelia, he hissed, his voice low, glancing at the phone on the floor with a venomous smile. If I go to prison, I swear I won't let you off once I'm out. I'm not the only one who knows about these photos. If anything happens to me, they will be released. The whole internet will see proof of your mother's affair. They'll end up on porn sites, too, for kicks. His father had secretly kept these photos as insurance, leverage in case the affair came out and someone tried to threaten him. He could protect himself, even threaten back. His father had died before needing them, but they'd been perfectly preserved. Now, William could use them. William admitted it freely. He was shameless, playing dirty. Amelia was furious? Fine. Kill him if she dared. He'd gladly drag her down to hell with him. He spewed his justifications, each word another knife twisting into Amelia. Under his defiant stare, her last shred of restraint finally snapped. Hatred burned in her eyes, for William, and for herself. Just as she reached in her bag for the knife she carried, the police outside saw the situation deteriorating and burst in, placing themselves between the two. The sight of the officers was like a plunge into icy water. The room was warm, but all Amelia felt was a bone-deep chill. A sharp pain suddenly pierced her stomach, making her double over, pressing hard against the ache. She retched, spitting up sour bile followed by a mouthful of blood. A loud ringing filled her ears like a gong. Biting her lip hard, she started to fall, but a policewoman caught her just in time. When she next opened her eyes, she was in the Mayo Clinic. The first face she saw was Mr. Stevens. "Miss Harper, you're finally awake. You scared me half to death," he exclaimed. Amelia managed a weak smile. How she wished it were all just a terrible dream. But the scenes replaying relentlessly in her mind insisted it wasn't. She moved to get out of bed, but Mr. Stevens gently stopped her. "Miss Harper, you're still connected to N4." Amelia glanced down, finally noticing the drip attached to her hand. "My father?" she asked urgently. "How is Benjamin Harper?" "Mr. Stevens shook his head, his face grim. "Mr. Harper, he hasn't woken up yet." Her father hadn't even woken up, and she had already collapsed. When he did wake, how could she face him? "Mr. Stevens," she asked quietly, "from your memory, were my parents in love?" Mr. Stevens had been with Harper Enterprises a very long time, since before Emily Harper passed away. It was a long time ago, though, and the details were fuzzy. He hesitated. "Yes, Miss Harper. They were," he finally said. "If they hadn't been, Mr. Harper likely would have remarried by now. Staying single all these years. He must have cherished their time together. Did my mother really love him?" Amelia pressed. "Love is usually mutual, Mr. Stevens replied gently. "I believe it's because Mrs. Harper loved him deeply that he has held onto her memory so devotedly." Unrequited love, Amelia thought bitterly. What seemed good was only surface deep. If Mom truly loved Dad, she wouldn't have cheated with the chauffeur. "Miss Harper, Mr. Stevens broke the silence about William. Should we engage legal counsel? He already knew the sequence of events, still finding it incredible that William had managed to drug Mr. Harper so brazenly. With Benjamin Harper's current state, William was surely culpable, facing at least a decade behind bars. "Yes, get a lawyer," Amelia replied flatly. Mr. Stevens blinked, momentarily thinking her feelings for William still held sway. But Amelia continued, her voice like ice. "I want the best prosecutor we can find. I want to nail William to the wall. Throw the book at him." If death wasn't an option, she wanted him locked away for as long as legally possible, suffering every single day. In addition to the poisoning, she added, "I want to press charges for disseminating obscene materials. Make sure it adds significantly to his sentence." Letting William escape justice now would be the ultimate betrayal of her father. And the photos? Emily Harper likely hadn't cared about appearances much when she was alive. She certainly wouldn't care now. The lawyers were hired. The wheels of justice started turning. William had fantasized about divorcing Amelia, pocketing $5 million, and living a life of leisure. Too bad for him. Now, he'd likely spend most of his remaining years behind bars. While Harper Enterprises still had influence, before it potentially crumbled, Amelia decided William deserved a special going-away present. Most inmates in his block had violent histories. Their viciousness, kept in check by guards during the day, simmered beneath the surface, ready to erupt after lights out. Rumors spread about William having been used by men on the outside, piquing their curiosity. Even with his head shaved, William was undeniably a pretty boy. To men starved of other outlets, a famous young face like his, stripped bare, might seem even more tempting than a woman. Tossing William into that environment was like throwing fresh meat to wolves. William refused to believe Amelia could be so ruthless, but she was. She acted without a shred of mercy. Back at the Mayo Clinic, Benjamin Harper finally regained consciousness. However, just as the doctors had feared, the stroke had left him paralyzed. Benjamin Harper woke up to find his body stiff and heavy. He struggled to turn over and get out of bed, but his body felt glued to the mattress, immobile. He managed to move his neck, and his numb fingers twitched. When a person first wakes up, their mind is often foggy. After a moment, he clearly sensed something was profoundly wrong with his body. The attendant nurse saw he was awake and called for a doctor. When the doctor came in to examine him, Benjamin opened his mouth, trying to speak, but only a slurred sound came out. "Doc. Doctor. He couldn't even finish such a short sentence. Not only was his body paralyzed, but his mind felt sluggish too. As soon as he opened his mouth, his tongue trembled. He had a sinking feeling he knew what had happened. He'd seen his father-in-law, Amelia Harper's grandfather, paralyzed after a stroke. It was a complication of high blood pressure, something he'd always struggled with. He'd been taking medication recently, planning to get through this rough patch and then come to the Mayo Clinic for a thorough checkup and rest, hoping to bring his blood pressure down. But this illness struck suddenly, completely outside his plans. Benjamin Harper couldn't hear clearly what they were saying. Through his blurry vision, he saw people around him, some strangers, some familiar faces, all looking at him with pity. Benjamin refused to accept he was paralyzed. To prove he could still move, he fought internally, straining to lift even an arm or move a leg. His chest heaved violently as he gasped for breath. This was just the beginning. Later, his consciousness would fade, his face would droop, and his body would emit a foul odor due to immobility, muscle atrophy, and incontinence. This was a future Benjamin Harper couldn't bear to face. If he had to live the rest of his life like this, he'd rather be dead. Who could have imagined that the once decisive and imposing Benjamin Harper would end up like this? His eyes stared blankly, tears streaming from their bloodshot rims. People moved around the room. The surrounding light dimmed, casting a shadow over him. Sensing someone beside him, Benjamin slowly turned his gaze. It was his daughter, Amelia Harper. She knelt by his bedside, gripping his hand tightly, sobbing, "Dad, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I should have listened to you earlier. It's all my fault." Benjamin wanted to lift his hand to stroke Amelia's head, to soothe her, but he could only manage a slight twitch of his fingertips. Amelia knelt before him, crying inconsolably, her quiet sobs turning into loud wails, as if she intended to shed every last tear. He remembered the last time Amelia had cried this hard, standing before her mother's coffin. She cried with such heartbreaking grief, yet he, her father, couldn't even comfort her. How had he become so utterly powerless? Benjamin Harper wanted to die. The only resistance he could muster was refusing to eat or drink. Trying such a thing right after waking up left him incredibly weak. "Amelia, I don't want to live," he rasped. "You send me abroad, get me an injection. Let me have assisted suicide. Dad, if you die, I'll die with you. Please think about me. You're the only family I have left. If you go too, what's the point of me living? Can't you please hold on a little longer for my sake?" Amelia pleaded. "Medical treatments are getting better all the time. It's not like it was years ago. Just because Grandpa couldn't be cured doesn't mean you can't be. You're stronger than he was. The doctors say there's still a chance for recovery. It's normal not to be able to move right now. You just had surgery and haven't regained your strength yet. Once you recover, the doctors will prescribe medication. If you take it, go for checkups and do physical therapy. You'll gradually be able to get up and walk again. When you're better, we'll go traveling. I'll even go abroad with you again then." Afraid Benjamin wouldn't believe her and remained fixated on his despair, Amelia sought help from the doctors. With guidance from both the attending physician and a psychologist, Benjamin's mood gradually stabilized. He started drinking water and eating again. "How's the company?" Benjamin asked. "Aaron's handling it," Amelia replied. "Don't worry about work stuff right now. Your job is to rest." But he couldn't control his thoughts. Sometimes, the more you try not to think about something, the more it consumed you. Benjamin might be paralyzed, but his mind wasn't completely gone. Not yet. He knew the state Harper Enterprises was in before he collapsed. Just the thought of the Westbrook District project made his blood pressure spike. How could Harper Enterprises be saved? Ask for help. But who had the power to help? If he could walk right now, he would go and plead with Victoria Harper. He'd beg her to help Harper Enterprises through this crisis, even if it meant getting on his knees. He'd even be willing to hand over control of the company. But now, immobile as he was, whether the company could survive was beyond his consideration. His only wish was for Amelia to have a comfortable future, free from worries about money, able to maintain her current lifestyle. Ask Victoria Harper for help. He managed to say, beg her not to be utterly ruthless, to leave enough money for Amelia. Amelia's heart sank. She remembered Victoria Harper's disdainful expression. How could Victoria possibly help Harper Enterprises when she seemed to be deliberately targeting it? Amelia suspected that all the trouble Harper Enterprises was facing was Victoria's doing. If it weren't for Victoria, the company wouldn't be in crisis, and her father wouldn't have collapsed from the shock and anger. When the company's shareholders heard Benjamin Harper was awake, they rushed over. They paid lip service, saying pleasantries, but arrived empty-handed without even a simple get-well gift, and their demeanor was aggressive. Amelia tried to block the door, but she couldn't stop them. Their first words were feigned concern for Benjamin's health, asking how he was. When Benjamin remained silent, they launched into the company's problems, demanding to know how he planned to give them an explanation. These opportunistic vultures spoke harshly. Back when Benjamin was healthy and powerful, these same people had treated him with utmost respect, never daring to raise their voices. Now that he was bettered in, all sorts of unsavory characters crawled out of the woodwork. Even minor shareholders looked down on him with disgust, uttering cruel remarks. In the end, Mayo Clinic security had to intervene and escort them out. The encounter left Benjamin extremely agitated. Fearing a repeat incident, Amelia hired a security detail to guard his door around the clock, allowing no one entry without permission. Aaron was one of the few allowed easy access to the hospital room. He didn't want to disturb Benjamin's rest, but the company's situation was dire and couldn't wait. Seeing the writing on the wall, shareholders were dumping their stock en masse. The Westbrook District project was proving impossible to recoup costs on. Competitors, noticing Harper Enterprises' cash flow crisis, began to circle like sharks. Profits were plummeting, several key projects were stalled in the approval phase, and the company was even being investigated by the SEC. Besieged by internal problems and external attacks, Harper Enterprises was like a small boat caught in a raging storm, liable to capsize with the next wave. Amelia had steeled herself to go and plead with Victoria Harper, but before she could, someone else arrived, begging at her own door. It was Sophia. Sophia, holding a child, had found out Amelia was at the Mayo Clinic and knelt right outside her father's hospital room door. Hearing the commotion outside, Amelia stepped out of the room to avoid disturbing Benjamin. Sophia was kneeling on the floor. "Ms. Harper, please save William," she cried. "Think about how you grew up together, childhood sweethearts. Think of everything he's done for you. Please save him." Amelia vaguely remembered Sophia from when she was William Hayes' assistant. Back then, Amelia had treated her like air, never giving her a second glance. Sophia had always stood quietly to the side, head bowed, silent, seeming perfectly harmless and unassuming. Amelia had never imagined any connection between William and Sophia. She had arrogantly assumed that William loved her so deeply he wouldn't be interested in anyone else. She had long since forgotten this unremarkable woman even existed. If her executive assistant hadn't accidentally seen William Hayes accompanying Sophia to the Mayo Clinic sometime earlier, Amelia likely wouldn't even recall her now. Amelia watched Sophia silently, her face expressionless. Sophia hadn't come alone. She was holding a child. Sophia's eyes were red as she knelt before Amelia, ignoring the pointing fingers and murmurs of bystanders, pleading for her to give William Hayes a way out, to let their family of three be together. A family of three, Amelia thought bitterly. "Get up," Amelia said coolly. Sophia didn't move. "You want to plead with me? Then let's go somewhere else. Kneeling here in front of everyone isn't pleading, it's a threat. You're trying to emotionally blackmail me." "No, that's not it," Sophia stammered. Amelia walked past her and pressed the button for the Rosewood Grand elevator. Seeing Amelia was unmoved, Sophia had no choice but to pick up her child and stumble after her. Inside the cramped elevator, the close proximity felt suffocating. Amelia asked, "Do you know why William Hayes is in prison?" "I saw on the Twitter trends online. They said he poisoned someone." Sophia replied hesitantly. "Ms. Harper, could there be some kind of misunderstanding?" "The evidence is conclusive. No one framed him," Amelia stated flatly. "Sophia, let me ask you, if someone poisoned your child, would you let them go?" Amelia glanced down at the child, nestled in Sophia's arms. As she saw the baby's features clearly, her pupils constricted almost imperceptibly. Sophia was startled by her glare, instinctively clutching the child in her arms and backing away from Amelia. Amelia got a close look at the baby. It was the first time she'd seen Sophia and William's child. He looked more like Sophia, but also bore a striking resemblance to the adopted son from her dream. Once could be a coincidence, but how many times had this happened now? Amelia stared intently at the child in Sophia's arms. "Does your son have a birthmark on his arm?" Sophia froze, looking at Ms. Harper in shock, unable to fathom how she knew. "Yes, he has a birthmark. Can I see it?" Sophia hesitated for a moment before struggling to lift the baby's sleeve, showing Amelia the birthmark on his right arm. As Amelia saw the mark clearly, her pupils constricted further. The elevator reached the ground floor, and Sophia stepped out first. Amelia numbly followed her out of the hospital. They found a bubble tea shop nearby and sat down. "Ms. Harper, you love William very much?" Amelia interrupted, her gaze deep and unreadable. "Would you still love him if he wanted to kill you? If that dream turned out to be real, why hadn't she met Sophia in that lifetime? Why did the child end up in the Hope Springs foster home?" The most likely explanation was Sophia had died, killed by William. "I just want a complete family for my child, with a mother and a father." "Ms. Harper, you don't understand what it's like for a woman once she becomes a mother. A father who's a murderer? Or a father $1, $5 billion in debt? I won't let William go. If I could, I'd kill him myself. He lied to me about too much," Amelia said in a low, heavy voice. Looking at Sophia's pale face, she gave a scornful smile. "You're right, I don't understand what it's like for you as a mother. But similarly, you don't understand me. If you think I should let him go, then I curse you. May every man you find cheat on you. May mistresses bring illegitimate children to your doorstep. May your son be poisoned and lie paralyzed in bed." Before she could finish, Sophia panicked, abruptly clutching her child and standing up. "How can you be so vicious? You think I'm vicious just because I said these words? William actually did these things. You can't even handle 1/10,000th of the pain I endured, yet you expect me to let him go." The baby in Sophia's arms suddenly burst into tears. Snapped back to reality, Sophia clumsily tried to soothe him. Amelia looked at the child, and that wave of nausea returned. She clenched her fists tightly, struggling to suppress the violent urge boiling inside her. "Don't ever appear before me again. That's my advice to you." Otherwise, she couldn't guarantee she wouldn't do something impulsive. Sophia was genuinely frightened by Amelia's expression. Clutching her phone, Amelia quickly left and returned to the Mayo Clinic. She leaned against a wall, thinking about her dream. In the dream, the first time she saw her adopted son, she had been drawn to the birthmark on his arm. At first, she thought it was dirt and even tried to wipe it off, only realizing it was a birthmark when it wouldn't come off. The director had said children with birthmarks were blessed. If the events in the dream were real, then she had adopted William's illegitimate son. She had brought him home, let Ethan raise him, given him the best education, the finest life. That would explain why the adopted son in the dream was close to William but cold and distant toward Ethan, the man who raised him. Because he already knew William was his biological father. Whenever he and William were alone together, he would be brainwashed. Children are easily swayed and brainwashed, especially by a master manipulator like William. Right now, Amelia was desperate to see Ethan, to confirm the dream, to explain everything, to apologize to him. Back in the hospital room, Amelia remained silent. Whenever she had a moment, she massaged Benjamin Harper's limbs. Benjamin Harper's speech was slurred, but he kept looking at her, his eyes asking what had happened, who she had met outside. Amelia couldn't tell Benjamin Harper, afraid he couldn't handle the shock. Whether it was William having an affair and a child out of wedlock, or William poisoning him and causing a stroke, or even Emily Harper's infidelity. Each revelation would be a devastating blow, especially the last one. He had loved his wife deeply for years, remaining unmarried for her sake after her death, only to potentially find out she had long been unfaithful, and that even her death occurred during a rendezvous with her lover. "Dad, I have something to do this afternoon. I need to go out," she said, gently squeezing Benjamin Harper's wrist. "Don't worry, I just want to see Victoria Harper." Given Harper Enterprises' situation, asking her for help is the only way. "I'll beg her properly." Benjamin Harper's eyes filled with tears. No one knew how proud and spoiled Amelia had been raised. Asking her to beg Victoria Harper was tantamount to crushing her pride underfoot, but they had no other choice. "Dad, I've already divorced William. You don't have to worry about me being deceived by him again." Okay, good." Having decided to find Victoria Harper, Amelia left after having lunch with her father. She couldn't contact Ethan directly, but she was sure that if she found Victoria Harper, she would definitely be able to see Ethan. Amelia was desperate to see Ethan, rehearsing what she would say the entire way. When she saw Victoria Harper, she resolved to speak calmly, control her emotions, refrain from shouting, and show respect. Harper Enterprises wasn't what it used to be, and she was no longer the esteemed Lady Harper. One had to know when to yield, when to be tactful. Her previous ability to be confrontational had been entirely propped up by the shelter Benjamin Harper provided. Now that Benjamin Harper had fallen, she needed self-awareness and had to learn her lesson. Amelia had found out from Aaron that Victoria Harper was at Harper Tower today. Seeing her required an appointment, but Victoria Harper's schedule was packed. If Amelia made an appointment now, she'd face a long wait, with no telling when her turn would come. Amelia called Victoria Harper, but the call went unanswered. She sent a text message and then hurried to the Yian Group building, only to be stopped by security at the entrance. Outsiders weren't allowed entry without permission. Amelia explained who she was, claiming to be Victoria Harper's niece, hoping to leverage their supposed connection, but the security guard was unmoved. "Our boss has stated she has no connection whatsoever to Harper Enterprises, which means she doesn't have any so-called niece." Appealing to sentiment wasn't going to work. Too many people try to see Ms. Harper every day. If everyone acted like you, there'd be a long queue at our entrance. If you want to see her, make an appointment with the front desk. They'll call you if one becomes available. This meant even an appointment didn't guarantee a meeting. Victoria Harper's attitude towards her was colder than towards a stranger. They shared no real bond. Appealing to shared history was futile. Due to her mother's death, Victoria Harper harbored an impartial disdain for everyone connected to the Harper family. Towards Amelia, however, it wasn't so much hatred as pure contempt. She had never considered Amelia worth her notice. Amelia knew this well. Unsure if Victoria Harper would agree to see her, she decided to wait quietly by the entrance. If not today, she would come back tomorrow. She refused to believe she could go her entire life without seeing Victoria Harper. Given that it concerned Victoria Harper and seeing Amelia's persistence, the front desk staff eventually called the chief secretary to report the situation. The secretary relayed the message to Victoria Harper. Victoria Harper took a sip of water. "Is she causing a scene?" "No scene. Security didn't let her in. She's just standing outside." "Then let her stand there. Ignore her." The secretary understood instantly. Victoria Harper didn't want to see her now, but not having security remove her meant she likely would see her later. At 4:30 p.m., Victoria Harper stretched languidly, glanced at the time, and saw it was almost the end of the workday. She put down her work, tidied her desk, and began a silent countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2. As she walked towards the door, just as her mental count reached 1, a knock sounded. Victoria Harper opened the door. Ethan stood there. "I'm here to take you home." Ethan was punctual. He always texted or called before picking Victoria Harper up, arriving at almost the exact same time every day. Victoria Harper had learned his pattern and would be waiting by the door just before he arrived. One waiting to knock, the other waiting to open. Ethan never came empty-handed. Sometimes flowers, sometimes bubble tea. Yesterday, he'd heard Victoria Harper mention wanting pecan pie from the shop on North Street. So today he had left early and taken a detour to buy it. That particular pecan pie shop was famous. The owner had bought a car, a house, and funded 3 children's educations selling it. Its only drawback was the remote location, an hour's drive away. They sold out quickly, and there was always a line. Ethan had called ahead to reserve one before going. In his past life, Ethan had also loved that pecan pie. After the owner's children went off to university out of town, the family moved away, and he'd never tasted it again. Knowing Victoria Harper liked it, Ethan had bought the recipe. It wasn't easily obtained. He had visited the owner multiple times and signed a strict agreement promising not to share it or open his own shop before the owner generously sold it to him. Perhaps the owner saw his sincerity, or maybe he recognized Ethan and knew he wouldn't need a profit from selling pecan pie. Of course, there was another factor, the sheer amount Ethan offered. $1. $5 million for a pecan pie recipe. To Ethan, making Victoria Harper happy made it worthwhile. Victoria Harper immediately noticed the bag in Ethan's hand. "What's this?" "Pecan pie. Didn't you mention it last night?" "I just said it offhand. I didn't think you'd actually go buy it." What Victoria Harper had recalled was how she used to buy that pie often when she studied near North Street. It was cheap, filling, and delicious. She hadn't had it in ages and suddenly craved it. A mere casual remark, and Ethan had brought it to her. "I want some." Ethan took out the pie. It had cooled. Fresh pecan pie smelled much better. Victoria Harper had a microwave in her office. Ethan washed his hands, heated the pie for 2 minutes, and brought it out. He had also bought her favorite bubble tea. Victoria Harper loved good food, but had a small appetite. Eating too much left her feeling uncomfortably full, so she usually ate just a few bites before stopping, leaving the rest for Ethan. Ethan asked, "Did you finish the soup from lunch?" "Yes, I finished it. It was delicious." Victoria Harper tended to feel cold, especially in winter, with perpetually icy hands and feet. At night, she'd press her cold feet against Ethan's thighs for warmth. Ethan had been consistently making nourishing soups for her daily. Her periods used to be very painful, but this last one hadn't hurt much. The nourishing soup was clearly helping. After finishing the pie, Victoria Harper washed her hands. "Did you see Amelia when you came up?" "Didn't see her. She came looking for you." "Who knows if she was really looking for me?" Victoria Harper murmured, adjusting Ethan's collar. Ethan had used the CEO's private access, coming directly from the underground parking, so he wouldn't have seen Amelia. When with Ethan, Victoria Harper disliked discussing other women, especially Amelia, the woman he had almost married. She changed the subject. "You really are my lucky star. Those business deals you helped negotiate are showing excellent growth, especially those plots of land you advised me to buy." If only Amelia had treated Ethan better, and if Benjamin Harper had shown him respect, Harper Enterprises could have had this lucky star. Victoria Harper favored dresses even in winter, paired with an overcoat. The office heating kept her warm, but outside was another matter. She often forgot her coat. Previously, her executive assistant reminded her, but now Ethan carried it. Inside the Rosewood Grand Elevator, he draped the coat over her shoulders. "Don't catch a cold." He then wrapped her scarf around her neck, layer by layer, the thick scarf doubling as a mask and earmuffs. At Harper Tower, Victoria Harper cultivated an image of seriousness, unsmiling and inscrutable. Young, yet radiating an unapproachable authority, commanding respect with a mere glance. Bundled up by Ethan, standing beside him, she looked like a young girl. Employees who usually averted their gazes couldn't help stealing glances. Years of her carefully crafted image lay shattered. Ethan pressed the button for the B2 parking level. Victoria Harper canceled it and pressed the button for the ground floor. "Let's go see Amelia. Might as well see what she wants." It was like finding something to do when bored just to kill time. To put it less kindly, Victoria Harper had never considered Amelia worth a notice. She didn't even spare Benjamin Harper much thought, so why would Amelia register? Dealing with Amelia was like poking an ant for amusement. Thinking of Amelia inevitably brought Benjamin Harper to Ethan's mind. News traveled between their circles. He'd heard almost immediately when Benjamin was rushed to the Mayo Clinic. Ethan had been somewhat surprised to learn Benjamin Harper was paralyzed after a stroke. He knew Benjamin suffered from hypertension. In his previous life, Benjamin had managed it better, only suffering complications around age 60. He'd been paralyzed then too, but only partially, still able to move slowly with dedicated care. After marrying Amelia, Ethan had thrown himself entirely into work. Publicly, it was a marriage of convenience, an alliance, but in reality, he'd essentially married into Harper Enterprises. He wasn't just responsible for the Johnson family's business, but Harper Enterprises as well. That previous life had been exhausting. Even with all the money he'd earned, there was no sense of fulfillment. While he managed Harper Enterprises operations, the real power wasn't his. The majority stake belonged to Amelia, and they'd signed a prenup. He was effectively just a highly paid employee, a hired hand. In his past life, Ethan had been like a utility player, moved wherever he was needed, no questions asked. Why would a man like Benjamin Harper, who valued power above all else, agree to Amelia adopting a child? Ethan hadn't understood it initially. It wasn't until after Benjamin's stroke that the older man confessed. Amelia was infertile. He'd pleaded with Ethan not to hold it against Amelia, to treat her well for life, adding that their adopted son was practically grown and no different from a biological child. Amelia had been diagnosed with infertility long ago, but Benjamin, fearing it would crush her, had kept it a secret for 2 or 3 decades. Benjamin Harper had worried endlessly about Amelia, but never spared a thought for Ethan's feelings. From his perspective, Ethan marrying Amelia was a windfall for Ethan. It wasn't until he was critically ill, watching Ethan tirelessly care for him, that a sliver of guilt surfaced. That explained why, when choosing a son-in-law, Benjamin hadn't prioritized wealth. The absolute requirement was genuine care and kindness towards Amelia. Capability came second. Ethan had ticked all the boxes. To go to such lengths as a father was commendable. Ethan found himself envying Amelia for having a dad who considered her well-being so thoroughly. In this life, however, Benjamin's illness had struck earlier and progressed further, from partial to complete paralysis, far more severe than before. Beyond the stress from work, there was Amelia's lack of understanding and William's insidious actions, secretly drugging him, which had undoubtedly hastened the onset of his condition. Hypertension doesn't react well to agitation. With everything that had happened, even a healthy person would struggle, let alone Benjamin. That William would dare to drug Benjamin Harper had surprised Ethan, but on reflection, given William's greed and ruthlessness, it seemed entirely in character. Amelia showing up here today to see Victoria Harper could only mean one thing. She wanted help for Harper Enterprises. The company was crumbling, on the verge of collapse. It wouldn't hold out much longer. Could they really expect Victoria Harper to extend a helping hand to Harper Enterprises? Not a chance. Benjamin Harper might have been a good father to Amelia, but to Victoria, he was far from a good man. Take the recent incident where he'd conspired with Victor Harper to drug Victoria, intending to sell her off. He'd always looked down on Victoria, believing her only asset was her beauty, and that a beautiful woman's body was her most valuable commodity. He was an extreme egoist, relentlessly exploiting anyone or anything he deemed useful. Benjamin Harper had even caused deaths before, simply paying his way out of trouble. His ruthlessness was evident in how he'd treated Ethan. All his tenderness and kindness were reserved solely for Amelia. The irony was that Amelia herself was largely responsible for his current predicament. As they stepped outside, they saw Amelia waiting by the door. She wasn't dressed warmly, shoulders hunched, hands shoved deep into her pockets. She shivered violently in the biting wind, occasionally stamping her feet against the cold. It was fortunate they were in the south. If this were the north, with sub-zero temperatures, standing out here for long would likely give her frostbite, maybe even freeze her features stiff. Amelia stood by the glass door, watching Victoria and Ethan emerge. As a gust of wind hit them, Victoria instinctively linked her arm through Ethan's, leaning closer. Ethan didn't flinch away, simply patting her shoulder reassuringly. The sight stunned Amelia. For a moment, she forgot the biting cold, her eyes stinging and red, partly from tears, partly from the wind. Ethan acted as though he hadn't even seen her, shielding Victoria as they moved forward. Amelia hurried after them. Ethan! Victoria stopped first, and only then did Ethan halt. Amelia was so cold she could barely form words, standing before them, lips trembling. If you have something to say, say it. Otherwise, we're leaving. Victoria's tone was surprisingly even. She didn't immediately shut her down. Amelia began, Victoria, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. We shouldn't have drugged you that day. I shouldn't have cursed you, or spoken so disrespectfully. I shouldn't have looked down on you or humiliated you. Please, can you spare Harper Enterprises? Just let us go this once. Victoria replied, You started spreading rumors about me back in school. I chalked it up to you being young and foolish, so I let it go. With the drugging, you knew about it, even if you weren't the mastermind. I let that go too. But understand this. I have a temper. Letting things slide isn't my default setting. A deeper chill seemed to settle into Amelia's bones. She pleaded urgently, Victoria, we truly understand our mistake now. If you just help Harper Enterprises survive this crisis, you can take charge afterwards. I'll do whatever you say. I'll listen to everything. Please, I'm begging you. TSK. So noisy. Victoria scoffed. How many times have you cursed me behind my back? You're only apologizing now, claiming repentance, not because you've genuinely seen the error of your ways, but because you know you're about to lose everything. Seeing that pleading with Victoria was getting her nowhere, Amelia shifted her gaze to Ethan, a desperate glimmer of hope in her eyes. Ethan's expression remained cold. Looking at me won't help. They themselves were the cause of all Harper Enterprises' current problems. Asking for help now? It was ridiculous. Amelia wasn't oblivious to this. Approaching Victoria was a long shot, clinging to the faint hope that Victoria and Ethan might somehow find it in their hearts to be lenient. Amelia watched them, feeling utterly like an outsider, unable to penetrate the bubble they shared, no matter what she said. Wasn't her situation pitiful enough? Why wouldn't Ethan even spare her a glance? Ethan, can I speak with you alone for just a moment? It won't take long. Ethan didn't answer, looking instead to Victoria. Victoria cut in. There's no need for a private conversation. Anything you tell Ethan, he'll tell me if I ask. Say what you need to say now, while I'm still inclined to listen. Otherwise, get lost. Amelia hadn't anticipated this refusal. She bit her lip, and seeing Victoria about to lead Ethan away, she blurted out, Ethan, I had a dream. In my dream, we had a wedding ceremony, and we adopted a child. Ethan frowned slightly, his features sharp, thin lips pressed tight. His gaze was dark and deep, radiating danger. Amelia watched Ethan and Victoria's expressions as she spoke. When she mentioned the adopted son's name, the boy was called Daniel. She clearly saw Ethan's pupils flicker, his composure momentarily broken. She found her answer in his reaction. In another parallel timeline, she and Ethan had truly married. Ethan hadn't broken off the engagement. On the day of the birthday charity ball, he had faced everything alone, shouldering all the humiliation and blame. He didn't fight, didn't argue, didn't cause a scene. Her memories were chaotic, just intermittent dreams that didn't connect, like slides flashing in her mind. Victoria suddenly cut in. Forget it, you two talk alone. I'm not interested in hearing about dreams. She secretly squeezed Ethan's hand. I'm craving beef stew with green beans today. I'll head to Texas Roadhouse and wait for you. You have 20 minutes tops. Okay, go ahead and order. I'll be right over. Texas Roadhouse wasn't far, just a few minutes walk across the street. No need for a cab. Ethan watched Victoria cross the road safely before turning back to Amelia. If they were only talking for 10 minutes, there was no need to find a place to sit. Ethan decided to probe Amelia first to see how much she knew. If she, like him, had been reborn, he would need to adjust his plans and nip any potential problems in the bud. What else did you dream about? Amelia suddenly couldn't read the man before her. After a long silence, she continued in a hoarse voice, I dreamed about the day of the birthday charity ball. I want to see William. You didn't break off the engagement. You left me a promise ring you made yourself, with our initials engraved inside the band. That ring was lost. She had searched everywhere, from home to the hotel, even rummaging through the Harper limousine and making calls, but no one had seen it. The lost ring was like her relationship with Ethan, suddenly gone, impossible to find no matter how hard she looked. Unwilling to accept it, she secretly made another one from memory. From selecting the materials to polishing and engraving, making a ring wasn't easy. Her inexperienced hands got scraped and cut. The replica looked very similar, but it wasn't the same one. Afraid of losing it, she didn't dare wear it around her neck and kept it locked in a safe. Today, she had brought it. She took it out to show Ethan, trying to jog his memory. It was just like this one. You made it, and you always wore it. A few months after our engagement, we got married. We adopted Daniel from the Hope Springs foster home. You even chose his name. Ethan remained unmoved, listening calmly as she spoke. You were always so good to me, accepting my flaws, tolerating my temper. It went from gratitude, at first, to just taking it for granted later on. I treated your kindness like it was owed to me, like a glass of lukewarm water, seemingly bland and easily overlooked. It wasn't until you left that I realized how important you were. The shotgun wedding back then was my fault. Ignoring your feelings was my mistake. Failing to show you my love was my problem. As for William, I wasn't in love with him. I only felt indebted to him. We grew up together like family. He carried me back when I almost got lost as a child. And when he went abroad years ago, it was Benjamin Harper who forced him to go because of me. To me, he represented friendship, family ties, gratitude, but definitely not romantic love. The one I loved was always you. I just didn't realize it, taking everything for granted. Benjamin Harper spoiled me rotten. Growing up surrounded by sycophants made it hard for me to recognize real love. Ethan found it laughable. You say you love me? Amelia's eyes reddened. Yes, I love you. I love you very much. Ethan asked again. And when did you realize you loved me? Without hesitation, Amelia replied. After you left. Ethan scoffed. That's not love. That's resentment. Is this your way of loving someone? Watching them suffer, hiring people to spread rumors, slander them, subject them to online harassment? If that's how you love, you should go find a boyfriend in prison. You'd have plenty in common with the inmates there. Amelia quickly tried to explain, what I did back then was wrong, but I just wanted you to come back to me to prove I still meant something to you. Did it ever occur to you, Ethan cut in sharply, that the online harassment might drive me to suicide? Amelia instinctively replied, no, you wouldn't. She hadn't considered that possibility at all. Ethan had Munchausen syndrome, but he had recovered. In the 3 years they were together, he hadn't had an episode or needed medication. No one knew better than her how strong Ethan's resilience was. Ethan, see? You're always so self-righteous. William could summon you with a single phone call, and you'd shower him with attention and tenderness. You gave him all your gentleness, and you still claim you didn't love him? If you didn't love him, would you have gotten engaged to him, married him? Would you have done so much for him? Admit it, Amelia. You're just greedy and selfish. You want everything. You invested too much in William, and when you didn't get the return you wanted, you remembered me again. I wasn't even your backup plan. More like a car jack you only remembered when you were stuck. In the previous life, William had always stood between them, an intrusion that lasted 30 years. It was impossible to say Amelia had felt absolutely nothing for him. Does cheating have to be physical to count? Ethan thought bitterly. Using William to test me. Once or twice might be testing, but any more than that becomes a habit. Testing the waters by hurting me, knowing full well I'd be wounded, yet doing it anyway, simply because she was confident I wouldn't leave her. How old was she, still unable to figure out what her heart truly wanted? A 20-something might be called an inexperienced young girl, but what about someone older who's still clueless? That's called playing dumb, pretending not to understand. I was too good to you, Ethan continued, his voice laced with ice, so you took advantage, pushing every boundary. You wanted my unwavering kindness, while simultaneously enjoying the thrill William provided. He had lived such a pathetic life last time. He clearly could have pulled away sooner, but his tolerance only made him sink deeper. It would have been better if Amelia hadn't said these things. The more she spoke, the angrier he became. In this life, he had cut ties with the Johnson family early on, broken the engagement, and escaped that cage. It was true he had loved her, but it was also true that he no longer did. He had originally thought that upon returning, he would live a quiet, ordinary life, cutting off all past grievances and affections, becoming strangers who wouldn't disturb each other. Ethan's expression flickered for a moment, then twisted into an utterly cruel smile. Amelia, the me in your dreams. He didn't have a good life, did he? Did he die young? And was it a particularly ugly death? Amelia recalled the last scene from her dream. Ethan covered by a white sheet, his body underneath ravaged with injuries. He was so thin that even the ring had become loose, slipping off his ring finger. Marrying you, Ethan stated with finality, just makes me destined for an early grave. Being with you? How much crap would I have to put up with? All that frustration would make me sick. Minor illnesses would turn serious, and I'd end up dying young. So young, I wouldn't even collect my pension. Ethan let out a breath, then gave a faint smile. Thank God I broke off the engagement. Thank God I didn't end up with you. Of all the things Ethan had said, nothing had ever hit Amelia with such devastating force. Those dreams she'd had. There had been warm moments, hadn't there? Amelia listened wordlessly, turning rigid like a statue. The wind blowing against her didn't feel like wind anymore. It felt like thousands of needles piercing every inch of her skin, leaving no place unscarred by pain. Ethan, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was really wrong. She reached out to grab his hand, but Ethan pulled back. Amelia stumbled and fell to the ground. It didn't look like a serious fall, yet she couldn't seem to stand up from the pain. She stayed kneeling, looking up at Ethan with a wounded expression. Passers-by noticed the commotion and turned to look. Some recognized Ethan and Amelia and began sneakily taking photos with their phones from a distance. Amelia was kneeling in the middle of the street. Ethan, I'm not asking you to stay with me. Just give me a chance to be near you, to make it up to you. As long as you let me stay by your side, I'll do anything. I'll listen to everything you say from now on. I won't even interfere with you and Victoria. Someone nearby overheard and froze. Was she offering to be the other woman out of love? Ethan hadn't expected Amelia to stoop this low. The once proud Lady Harper, who used to look down her nose at everyone, was now kneeling on the ground. It seemed if Ethan asked her to kowtow, she would do it without hesitation. Ethan's expression remained unchanged, as if coated in ice. Even if you did interfere, it wouldn't matter. You're nothing to me. What you can offer is the last thing I need. I have no feelings for you whatsoever. Not the me standing here now, nor the me in your dreams. From the moment you ran from our wedding at the philanthropic gala, my heart turned to ash where you were concerned. To him, emotional infidelity was just as unforgivable as physical infidelity. Cheating was cheating. There were no degrees. It was all equally disgusting. The past life she spoke of had already disgusted him numb. Bringing it up again, now, was like shoving a basin of filth under his nose and demanding he smell it. Wasn't that purely repulsive? Ethan truly couldn't understand why Amelia insisted on talking about that past life. Was it just to prove they were once husband and wife? That they had been intimate? If it had been a happy life, maybe, but dredging up an unhappy one? That was just purely meant to sicken him. Amelia lifted her head, looking at Ethan in despair, tears streaming uncontrollably. Ethan, do you hate me? Ethan shook his head. You're not worth wasting that kind of emotion on. Nothing I've done today is about revenge. It's self-preservation. I know exactly what kind of people you and Benjamin Harper are. If I didn't fight back, I'd be the one dead. I don't like leaving my life in the hands of someone else's whims. What happened to Harper Enterprises is Benjamin Harper's own doing. Don't waste your time bothering Victoria, and don't kneel here begging for my forgiveness. If I forgave everything, it would mean I deserved everything that happened in the past. Besides, those dreams you had have nothing to do with me. Talking about them only disgusts me. It was all just cause and effect. Those who tried to harm him either ended up in Springfield Correctional Facility or were struck by serious illness. Richard Johnson used to tell him often, "This is your fate." One simple sentence had defined his life. This time, he would show them through his actions that their fates were grasped firmly in his hand. Ethan was always like this. Just when she thought there might be a glimmer of hope, he would snuff it out without a second thought. The metallic taste of blood grew stronger in her throat. In the past, faced with such heartlessness from Ethan, Amelia would have stopped talking. But things are different now. Her father was still lying in the Mayo Clinic. Seeing Ethan about to leave, she scrambled forward on her knees. Don't go, Ethan. Please don't go. Save my dad. I'll kowtow to you. It's all my fault. Everything is because of me. It has nothing to do with my dad. I'm begging you, let Harper Enterprises go. Let my dad go. I'll go abroad. I'll leave. I promise I'll never appear before you again. This was Amelia's true purpose all along. Mentioning the dream was an attempt to play the sympathy card with Ethan, perhaps holding on to the phrase, childhood sweethearts. Ethan spoke in a perfectly calm tone. Victoria was right. Your tears and your attitude right now are just a pretense born from fear of punishment. You're not admitting fault because you truly understand you were wrong. You're hoping I'll be a fool and let you off. Since we've reached this point, I advise you to look out for yourself. I'm nowhere near as magnanimous as you think. I'm petty and vindictive. Don't forget, I'm the kind of person who could send his own parents to be mistreated in Springfield Correctional Facility. There was truly no hope left. Amelia's breath caught, then grew labored. She couldn't find the strength to support herself. With all her might, she asked one last question. Ethan, did you ever love me? Love? Did it even matter now? Ethan answered seriously. Before the engagement, yes. Back then, on the rooftop of the Mayo Clinic, you pulled me back and said something. If I couldn't find a reason to live, maybe I should try loving you. So I spent 3 years trying to love you, doing everything to the absolute extreme. If you can't find a reason to live, why not try liking me? Try pursuing me. If you have a goal to chase, maybe you won't live again. Those were her exact words. Back then, Ethan had forgotten even what it felt like to like someone. He didn't know how to love others, or himself. He had lost the capacity to love. Ethan looked into Amelia's eyes. It was obvious that if he hadn't reminded her, she might have forgotten. Amelia probably knew deep down too. In that dream, Ethan had spent a lifetime treating her well, only to meet a terrible end. Wasn't one lifetime enough? Hearing this answer, the pain in Amelia's heart intensified. Ethan had truly loved her, but she had lost him. The taste of blood in her mouth grew thicker. Watching Ethan turn away, she tried to stand up and chase after him. As her legs barely supported her, a sharp numbness shot through the soles of her feet. Her knees buckled as she collapsed back onto them. Amelia gasped and coughed up a large mouthful of blood, slumping completely to the ground. A broken sob escaped her throat. Head bowed, she looked up at Ethan's resolute back, tears mingling with blood dripping onto the pavement, her shoulders trembling uncontrollably. She strained to lift a hand towards Ethan, wanting to grasp him. A raindrop landed in her palm. The wind blew through her hand. She curled her fingers slightly, trying to catch something, but caught nothing. Ethan's departure was like the wind. She couldn't catch the wind, and, just the same, she couldn't catch him. Ethan walked away without a backward glance, disdaining even to look at her pitiful, wretched state.